Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to get underway here. Well, good morning, everybody. I wanted to extend my my thanks again to Montana State and President Cruzado for hosting us these last couple days. This is a very unique opportunity for the Board of Regents as well as the Education Interim Committee to come together in a joint session to talk about some ideas and some thoughts on some actions that we are taking collectively to ensure that the education system in Montana is strong and it's adaptable and it's agile and it's producing the skills that are needed for our Montana communities and the skills that are needed to push forward our Montana economy. So it's great to have everybody here today. I wanted, before we sort of dive into the agenda, I wanted to take the opportunity to do some introductions so we all know who is who at the table this morning. And I guess I'll go ahead and start and then pass it over to Representative Anderson. I'm Casey Lozar. I'm the chair of the Board of Regents. This is my fourth year. I'm coming up on my fifth year with the Board of Regents, and it's been a pleasure to have a very small role in moving forward the higher education system in the state of Montana, and to find pathways and connections between our higher ed and our K-12 partners. So look forward to the discussion this morning, and welcome everybody.
Good morning. I'm Representative Fred Anderson. I represent House District 20 and I'm currently serving as the chair of the Education Interim Committee. And I'm just delighted to be here and be a part of this meeting, and I think it's great that the Interim Committee and the Regents have had the opportunity to come together. We certainly have some commonalities and some common focus, and so I'm delighted to be here. And speaking for the Interim Committee, I know that we are all really delighted to be a part of this, Casey, and so thank you for the opportunity.
Good morning. My name is Paul Tuss, and I serve as a member of the Board of Regents. I reside in Havre, where in my day job I serve as the executive director of a nonprofit economic and community development organization. And this meeting represents the 8th year that I have served as a member of the Board of Regents, and I currently have the opportunity of serving as both the vice chair of the Board of Regents as well as the chair of our budget committee. And welcome to our legislative partners.
I'm Representative Bruce Grubbs, and I represent House District 68, which is outside of Bozeman and Belgrade. Served on the Bozeman School Board for 5 years, and I'm in my second term in the Montana legislature, and really excited to be involved in education in the legislature. I serve on the House Education Committee during the regular session, and also on the Interim Education Committee. And I'm really excited about this meeting with the Regents. Had some good conversations last night and this morning, and we want to hear a lot about what the university system is doing. So thank you for inviting us.
Thank you, Bruce. I'm Martha Sheehy. I'm a regent from Billings. I've served as a regent for 5.5 years. I too welcome the legislative committee. This is a really exciting opportunity for us. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Connie Keogh. I represent House District 91 in Missoula. It's the Rattlesnake and down through University Avenue. I've been a teacher for many years. I currently work at Western Governors University, and I find this opportunity to be with you all today very exciting. I was asked earlier if this was if I'd ever attended a Regents meeting, and I had to say no, so this is a new adventure. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning, everyone. My name is Bob Nicetoon. I'm a member of the Montana Board of Regents, been on the board for about 4.5 years. I live in Lakeside, Montana. I work in Kalispell as a community banker. I got my start in higher education at a community college, Flathead Valley Community College, was on the board there for 13 years, President Karras. 9 years as their board chair and have been a member here. I chair the 2-year and community college committee of the Board of Regents and serve on the budget committee with Paul and a few other folks, so thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Senator Dan Solomon, represent Northwest Montana from Polson to the middle of Missoula. Farmer from up there. Been on the education committees, I think 5 sessions. I've chaired the Senate Education Committee the last couple of times. Looking forward to a very interesting discussion about a number of issues that are so important to Montana.
Hello, my name is John Miller. I am the student regent. I am a law student from University of Montana, a unique breed of law student that's interested in tax codes. So I don't know if we're going to be talking about that today, but relevant as there's many legislators around this table, so thank you for being here.
Yes, good morning. Russ Temple, Senate District 14. I go from Great Falls to Havre to Whitlash. It's 6,100 square miles of that area. I've been in this my second legislative term as Education Committee, and I look forward to meeting with you folks. Thank you.
I'm Seth Bodner, president at the University of Montana, and just a real pleasure to be here, and I really appreciate the engagement of the committee today, and looking forward to an interesting discussion. So thank you all.
Good morning, my name is McCall Flynn. I am Governor Bullock's Education Policy Advisor and his representative on this board.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Eric Austin. I am a member of the Political Science faculty here at MSU, and I am the chair of Faculty Senate from this campus.
Good morning. Juanette Cruzado, president of Montana State University. Very happy to have all of you here and to have an opportunity to host this committee at your university. So happy to have you here.
Good morning, Elsie Arnson. I'm Montana State Superintendent of K-12. And what an exciting moment that we have a stronger partnership. We have legislators around the table with Regents as well as K-12. So it's going to be a great discussion. But this is the beginning. So your first time is just an interlude to the next time that you'll be here.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Representative Tom Woods. I serve House District 62, which I could almost hit a golf ball to, but probably couldn't at this point because I'm not that good at golf. I've served in the legislature for 4 terms, all 4 terms on the Education Finance Committee. I'm also very proud of the fact that for the last 19 years, off and on, I've been an adjunct instructor of molecular biology and physics here at Montana State University. And so I'll be the first to say it, go Cats.
Trying to be diplomatic today.
Good morning, Mafi Funk. I'm a representative out of Helena, a former middle school social studies teacher, have a former student here, which is kind of awesome. And I'm just so glad we tried to do this 2 years ago, and the legislators to have this joint session, and the legislators got stuck in the special session in Helena. So this is a much nicer place to be. So thank you so much.
Good morning. My name is Joyce Dombrowski. I live in Missoula. I am one of the newest regents, and a just great opportunity for us to be together in this really aligned and shared agenda.
Good morning. I'm Senator Carly Bolin from Senate District 12 in Great Falls. I was in the House for 3 terms, and this is my 2nd year on the education in the Senate. Thank you for having me.
Good morning. My name is Breanne Rogers. I'm the regent located here out of Bozeman, and just so appreciate having you all here today and the rich discussion that we enjoyed this morning at breakfast.
Good morning. I'm Sue Vinton. I represent House District 56 in Yellowstone County. I serve on the House Education Committee as vice chair. I also serve on the Montana University System 2-year commission, which is a new commission, and I have a particular interest in 2-year college programs and career and technical education. So I'm very excited to be here. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Edie McClafferty. I serve Senate District 38, which is Butte and Jefferson County. I have served on the Education Committee since 2009, and I'm looking very forward to today's meeting. Thank you for having us today.
Good morning. I'm Clayton Christian. Have the pleasure to serve this board and all of you as Montana's Commissioner of Higher Education. I want to thank Tyler and Pat for putting this logistical challenge together. I've been kicking around these meetings for about 14 years. We've never done this, to my knowledge, and it's probably long overdue. So it's a pleasure to have this group together, a bunch of people around the table that I know care deeply about education and higher education, and so look forward to the conversation. Thank you all for being here.
Well, thank you all for your introductions. Obviously, we've got a lot of synergy between what the legislator is working on and what the Board of Regents and K-12 are working on, so we look forward to the discussions this morning. You know, yesterday at the Board of Regents meeting, we covered quite a few topics. We went in depth in our 2-year education and vision and mission and what's working well, areas for improvement. We talked about our academic approval process, which is very key to making sure we're responsive to industry needs and the needs of our citizens. We went through the LRBP process, the updated process, and that being one of those topics that are important to both groups here this morning. And then we had a fantastic presentation yesterday on something that this board is very passionate about, and that's on retaining and recruiting rural teachers in Montana. And this was a topic of discussion for the board 2 years ago and 3 years ago, and we asked the commissioner, you know, let's work in partnership with the Office of Public Instruction, and let's see what we can do to prepare teachers to move into our rural communities to educate our young people. And very excited to see the progress that we're able to make in partnership with OPI. And I think as a segue, I wanted to invite Superintendent Artson to provide some brief remarks, which is typical for our Board of Regents meetings. Knowing just the work that happens in K-12 is really the foundation for the work that happens and success that students have in higher education. So Superintendent Artson, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Board Chair Lozar. Commissioner, thank you very much for making this happen with the legislators. And President Cruzado, it's an honor to be sitting by you. Normally on the other side, I have the University of Montana. So because we have the legislators here, I'm not sandwiched in between. But I do have a degree from the University of Montana and a degree from MSU. So go Montana, I think is what we can do. But I'm very honored to be here, and I need to say within the month I probably need to be an enrolled student. I have been on your campus so many times with so many wonderful programs that are occurring. One that I can shout out is Team Nutrition that is here at MSU. Within our Health and Safety Division that we have at the agency, we have rock stars there, but the partnership between what we have here with Katie Bark and the great people that are making sure that our children know the value of food, know the value of a healthy lifestyle, and that is something that through your leadership has done. So, but I am paying a lot at that parking lot across the way in my way here, so I might need to become a student.
Okay,
Okay, we can do that.
I can have an application right here.
Okay, we can do that. One of the things that I want to share is we have 4 basic initiatives that are at the agency, and I want to start out with Montana Hope. Montana Hope, they're our children. They are our treasures, and that has to do with the nutrition. So I'll segue from that into another opportunity that I was here in this very same room with the John Deere Egg Expo. And because of the graciousness of you, as well as here at MSU, we had 16,000 students and very excited chaperone and teacher leaders that were here in this very same room. When I went to the back to grab a cup of coffee and to put my dinner tray away, I looked out on a sea of blue jackets that said Montana right across the back. This is our Future Farmers of America, FFA. FFA is very strongly supported by the agency. I am firmly committed to these student leaders. They are all across our state. But the energy, the opportunity, and the excitement that these students have is just resounding. So thank you again for that. This is part of Montana Hope. The other part that we are working on has to deal with a Samsa Grant. And I know I did a little bit of a discussion at my last Board of Regents meeting. We have a Samsa Grant that is for wraparound specialists on our Native American in our Native American schools on our reservations, as well as some that are off, depending on how large the population is. This is coming through the Department of DPH at the federal level, and we are in our third year of rolling out this grant. It was housed off campus. I brought it in and embraced it at MSUB, and it's exciting that we are in the education building at MSUB. So I know under the leadership of Chancellor Edelman that we are incorporating what he has begun as Native American Achievement along with our Samsa Grant in such a strong partnership. Health and well-being of our children. And this segues into some very big challenges that are on every teacher's plate across Montana, and that is suicide awareness, that is suicide prevention. We have had challenging things in your valley, Regent and Eastern. My goodness, we have had challenges all over our state. So making sure that Montana is known for not being #1 in youth suicide, but in more wonderful things that our beautiful state has to offer. That is a challenge that we have, not just in K-12, but if we could, Chairman Lozar, if we could begin some sort of a task force to keep our youth alive in a P20 look, I would encourage some sort of a discussion in a task force. So Commissioner Christian, if we could visit and maybe begin the year of 2020 with more of Montana Hope in a P20 look. Montana Teach is our second initiative. So we have Montana Hope, our children, Montana Teach, our most exciting thing dealing with our professionals. 15,000 individuals, teachers and teacher leaders across our state. We have a huge lift at the agency. We have content standards, 12 of them. We are in the process of 5 revisions. We are dusting off some things that have been on the books for 20 years. College and career readiness. That's CTE. 20 years. So we're really working hard at that. We've brought a great group of individuals, of experts from the field together this summer. We've had one great group in discussion. We also now are asking people in our communities across Montana to come and join us in a negotiating rulemaking so that we can unroll this in the school year of 2021. It will be going to the Board of Public Ed in the spring. It also comes in front of the interim committee. And that's why I'm discussing it with you, because of the economic impact. Anything that a state agency, especially in education, does for accreditation needs to come in front of you, making sure that you have a pathway to fund if there is any need for that, to support our schools in standards. We also have social studies revision. That encompasses economics, geography, and civics. We have an initiative, Stars and Stripes in Every Classroom, so that our original documents, our flag, our pledge, can all be discussed, and most expressively in our middle school children, so that they understand their pathway to be an educated Montanan, an educated citizen of the United States. We also are unwrapping our computer science, technology, and our library media, which hadn't been taken care of since 2008. Again, 12 of these, and we are doing 5. We can't do it alone. We have committees that we would like you to be part of. So anybody here at this table or at these tables, please go back to your community. Get on our website. Put your name in. How exciting it is to have that community look on what teachers teach, when they teach them. Please, these standards are important. They are the backbone of our K-12 system. And then as well, thank you for bringing up our teacher retention and recruitment issues. I also want to say it's distribution. How are we distributing our teachers across our state? We're working very, very passionately in this issue. I taught for 23 years. We need to make sure that we have the best teacher in front of my grandchildren, in front of everybody's children. It's exceedingly important. More will be rolling out with this as we find solutions. Not just talking about the issues, but making sure we have solutions. We must have solutions. Montana Learn. Montana Hope, our children, Montana Teach, our professionals, and Montana Learn. Montana Learn. House Bill 351, does it ring a bell to the legislators around us? This is our transformational learning. It was a bucket of money that was given from the legislature, precious tax dollars, for transforming our system. It was given to the agency in a very unique form, a funding formula based on scarcity. In other words, first come, first serve. We've never had that ever before. 11 districts will be funded this first cycle. This will go for 8 years. 11 districts. We had over 100 districts that were there and waiting. Within 90 seconds, the money was soaked up. So legislators, policymakers, if indeed there could be any more money going toward transforming our educational system based on what it looks like at a school, differently from what another school might look like, based on a region, based on a philosophy, I implore you, look at that this next session. We'll be coming more with other information based on what this bill was. And then regents and legislators. We had House Bill 387, which is an Advanced Learning Opportunities Act. This is our partnership again, together, stronger, based on career technical, based on college, making sure that we have a pathway for our students, not just our students that are in high school, but this bill allows for funding all the way to middle school. Can we do better in that frame in middle school? Yes, we can. But thank you, legislators, for believing in that. And that is ongoing funding. So we will be sharing with you the successes, and we would also like to have your approval if any more funding need to be coming toward that opportunity. So thank you for that. I also want to share that we all know that No Child Left Behind went away, and every Student Succeed Act came in the later stages of 2015. It's almost in its 4th year. It's unbelievable. We submitted our plan to the Education Secretary in the spring of 2018. We are in the process of amending that plan with 2 technical amendments, and if I could so kindly quickly share. We have English language learners that are dispersed all across our state in all of our classrooms. We have a large Hispanic population. We have authentic indigenous languages. We also have one of the highest languages in our state is German because of our Hutterite population. So a new test for this language came out, and we embraced it with a group of experts this summer to see when it is we could exit a student out of this that they were proficient in knowing the English language. Because the new test was much more rigorous, we had to change how we looked at that exit. And we brought the group together, like I had said, and it's a very rigorous standard, and we are proud of that. But we are also in professional development then, and understanding that these students are in all of our classrooms. So the methodology, which is very technical, is part of our plan, and that is part of being submitted. Another part of the amendment is more money came into Montana in a bucket of Title 4A. Title 4A is money that flows in based on school wellness, not on academics and math and in reading, but what is school climate? What is school safety? More money flew in. That is so exciting. What we did this time is that we are saying every school district is receiving a block of $10,000, where before they only received maybe $200. So if you're a very small school system, it was based on an allotment of your A and B. But more money came this last year, and as a result then, we were able to give every district $10,000. After that, it is based on an A and B or a student count. Again, this can happen for mental health, school safety, professional development, and exceedingly helping our partners before school and after school as well. Title 4A dollars. Those are the two amendments that our ESSA Act is that we are looking forward to. We're discussing it with the governor's office. It's a requirement with ESSA, and it will be submitted to the secretary the end of November. Montana Hope students, Montana Teach, Montana Learn, and now Montana Ready. Again, how exciting our legislative partners are at this table to make sure our children, our Montana children, are ready for whatever Montana gives them. That's our reach. That is our charge. So that can be in college, that can be in community, that can be making sure that they have a career in whatever they can be. We must make sure that that is an opportunity given to every child, every student. So policymakers, more will be coming on that. As you had seen these bills this last session, more will be coming. I appreciate you giving me this amount of time to speak. I come every time, and I'm so honored that I get to sit amongst all of you and be part of the bigger picture in a P20 look. I also want to say that it's the advent of Thanksgiving, and there's a lot to be thankful for. One of them, of course, is that there's a football game this weekend, and I appreciate that it's also date day for my husband and I. I live in Helena, and my husband lives in Billings, so to be able to meet at the game is going to be exceedingly important for our marriage, and as well as for that, so I'm thankful for the football game. Thank you for that. But I'm also very thankful for our partnership and for you allowing me to speak here. And as I look upon us here, our policymakers, and our people that are here supporting our students outside of the K-12, here, but outside here, because there's an army of us. I am thankful, very thankful, that you believe in what I believe, that we are putting our Montana students first. Thank you for allowing me this time, and happy Thanksgiving to all.
Thank you, Superintendent Arntzen, for a very thorough report. And you know, I think I mentioned in a previous meeting, I don't know if you have missed a Regents meeting since you've been the superintendent. We certainly appreciate your time that you commit to coming to the meetings and sharing updates and sharing your insights. But going well beyond these meetings, really diving deep with our commissioner and our partners in the campuses to find projects and activities that we can partner on together. So we certainly appreciate your leadership. We have a lot to cover this morning, and You know, I know we were going to talk about resident student access. We're going to talk about the career and college readiness and career and college portal that is being developed in partnership between OPI and the university system. And then we wanted to dive pretty deep on two-year education in the state of Montana. This last legislative session, we had a shared policy goal with legislators around, particularly around career and technical education, it being one of the primary priorities for the university system. And so we've got a presentation that our deputy commissioners for the Office of Commissioner in Higher Education are going to walk us through, and then we'd like to open up for discussion, as well as a little later in the agenda, talk a little bit about research and where we're at in research in the university system. So with that, I'd like to introduce Deputy Commissioner Brock Tessman and Deputy Commissioner Tyler Trevor. The floor is yours, deputies.
Mr. Chair, members of the Board of Regents and the Education Interim Committee, welcome. Good morning. Dr. Brock Tessman and I are here to serve as your tour guide through a presentation that we recently provided to the Two-Year Education Commission, a commission led by some of you that are on this, present here in this room, some of the regions, to take a look at the structure of the Montana University system and explore the utility of two-year education, the importance of career and technical education. And so we were fortunate enough, Brock and I, to provide this presentation about a month ago, and we thought it would be very applicable to this group. We're going to try to mix it up a little bit for those who have already seen it once, and move through some slides rather quickly. This is not intended to be death by PowerPoint, although 35 slides that hover above us might say differently. I'm very sensitive to the fact of not doing that, so as I see heads down and kind of a lack of interest, we'll move quickly. But please engage. We're here to serve as a catalyst for a discussion, not to just pour information your direction. So with that, I think I'll kind of head into this, and Brock will serve as sort of the color commentary. So imagine us as like Monday Night Football. Try. So we break this into three topics, and the first one is career and technical education profile. I mean, what in the world do we mean by career and technical education? How is it present in our data? How can we communicate that to not only this group, but the public? I think that's the larger question about what you'll hear about. The shared policy goal that we signed with the legislature is basically asking the university system to do a better job of communicating career and technical education. And really, under that CTE profile area there, we're giving you first a profile of two-year education in the Montana University system, and then focusing on career and technical education. We then branch off into a sector on costs of career and technical education. In fact, there is a study bill to look at the cost of two-year actually career and technical education, and possibly explore ways of improving funding for it. And then finally, we conclude with some of our, here we have it listed as Cte Initiatives, really two-year education initiatives, and this is where we'll branch into the Resident Student Access Initiative that Chair Lozar just spoke of. And so we kind of are going to use this presentation to not only set the framework for two-year education in the university system, but connect it to some of our larger initiatives that we have done in the past and we currently have going. So with enough background on that, we'll move into what is career and technical education. And the easiest way for us to set that forward is to simply say CTE represents all occupationally oriented education and training at two-year colleges. We have occupational and workforce training at the four-year level, but for this purpose, we're focusing it only at the two-year campus level. and that these programs and courses are not just pulled from air. We are told by the federal government which ones they are. They give us a taxonomy, we apply it to our data, and you're going to see some of the results of that here.
Yeah, and I would just add, of course, our primary focus with CTE is on the technical, career-focused skills, but I think if you look around our state, if you look around the country, CTE education involves both technical and what we might think of as employability or practical skills, and I think that that's an important thing to mention along the way, is that dual focus. Even as we mentioned career and technical, we know that these are also foundational educational experiences for our students.
So this next slide is sort of a foundational slide of the two-year commission, giving everyone an idea of the organization of not only the Montana University system as a whole, but where two-year education sits within it, and as well as our partners of the community colleges and the tribal colleges. So by no means when we move through our data are we purposely excluding different sectors of two-year education. It's just an artifact of the way our data, particularly when we look historically, has been set up. So we're very focused on MUS campuses here, and just a quick note on that, you can see those highlighted in pink, very small print. I can't even come close to reading it from here, but I know it by heart, and that is our two independently accredited two-year campuses, Helena College and Great Falls College, followed by our integrated, 5 of our campuses have integrated two-year campuses, and Montana State University being one of those with Gallatin College, and then we have MSU Billings has City College, we have Montana Tech with Highlands College, and the University of Montana with Missoula College, as well as Bitterroot College.
And I think there's no doubt, as you look at this kind of organizational chart of our two-year institutions, it's a complex system, right? And I've had the chance in my position to tour most now of our two-year campuses. They're very different. They all occupy different roles in our system. They're in very different parts of this state. As someone who's still relatively new to Montana, that might be something I would consider to have been fairly striking. But complex doesn't mean inefficient, and it doesn't mean suboptimal. I think this complex system actually serves our state particularly well. And as I get to know our two-year leaders and our two-year campuses, I find that the different governance structures, the different types of communities they serve, it's actually a form of resilience that allows our two-year system to be quite adaptable and to fill the different needs that the state has. And I look at this chart and sometimes think that it gives off the wrong impression. I think it's actually something that's developed over time in order to meet the needs of Montana. And I think moving forward, there could of course be things we can work on with respect to our institutions, but the governance structure seems to be working quite well.
So I'll pause there. Don't hesitate to interrupt us at any time. Put your hand up. We're ready for questions. Before we kind of dive into some of the meat here, it's just worth mentioning the mission of two-year colleges. This is a adopted in-board policy that our two-year colleges will strive to have a comprehensive community college mission. And so what does that mean? Community colleges across the nation are, the hallmark of their mission is a 5-prong mission, and it works all the way from transfer education through very specific workforce development, CTE, developmental education, remedial classes, lifelong learning, and community development. And I guess really the hallmark of two-year is that it's open access and it's affordable. And that is key to remember as we move through this presentation. And also very key here is the final sentence there. It says, two-year colleges will pursue efficiencies in the Montana University system by integrating operations with four-year and flagship campuses whenever and wherever possible. And the reason for that is funds are scarce. In order to be able to provide the level of education that we have to share services. And it is a common theme that you'll see reoccurring throughout this presentation. So I already spoke of this, just a real technical note here. Our standalone two-year campuses, what makes them standalone? Well, they're independently accredited. They have independent budget, facilities, services. whereas our integrated ones are just the opposite. They are dependent on the I call it parent campus accreditation and operations, facilities, and services. This next slide just is a real technical slide that kind of gets us to the slide that'll follow, which is a kind of a giving you a framework for ranking campuses in terms of how much CTE do they provide. And remember, if we go back to that mission, there's a 5-pronged mission. And so some campuses, 2-year campuses in this state, have a more developed 5-pronged mission. And so you might think, you might see that they are a heavier concentration on transfer students, for instance. So we take a compilation of what percent of your head count is in CTE, what percent of your FTE is in CTE, and what percent of your degrees that you award are in CTE, and come up with a composite ranking, and you're able to then kind of build a picture in your mind of the differences. Not to say anyone is better or worse at all. It's more or less just to give you a concentration of who's providing what. And you can see MSU Northern at the top there. So I didn't mention this. So 2 of our 4-year campuses don't actually have named components of 2-year. They just have 2-year programs. And MSU Northern and the University of Montana Western are those 2. They have offer 2-year degrees in addition to their 4-year degrees, but they don't call it a separate college. And so the 2-year programs at Northern are very concentrated in CTE. And then you can see the list there. It works down toward Flathead Valley and Dawson, which are community colleges. They've been around a long time. Their missions have really expanded across those 5 areas that we mentioned earlier. And then finally, the takeaway here is, so then you are asked, so out of all the classes and all of the 4-year and 2-year campuses offering, what percent of it is CTE? Well, based upon our definition, that bottom line there would be 16% of what we offer is focused on CTE.
Tyler?
Yeah, Representative Funk.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick question. Do you have any, and thank you for all this information, but how many of the people that begin the CTE 2-year program complete it? Because we were talking, had an interesting conversation at breakfast this morning. So thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Representative Funk, we do. We measure graduation rates for 2-year campuses. And oftentimes, you'll find those numbers, you might find them lower than what you might expect. And a couple of reasons here is that 2-year students are more likely to attend part-time. They're more likely to stop out, come back, and continue their education and maybe not do it in a full-time enrollment pattern. And also, often a few courses combined together, lo and behold, they have a job. You complete the brakes portion of an auto mechanics degree, and you're offered a job. So it's a tricky question to answer. It's not quite as straightforward as you might take it as a chemistry degree at a 4-year campus.
Can I add to that briefly? We do know, if you look at the secondary level, where you have students all working towards a high school degree, students who are concentrating in CTE fields actually have a higher graduation rate than students who are not concentrating in those fields. And it touches on a really important point. And that point is that we know students thrive when they have focus. Right? And oftentimes, CTE offers benefit not just because of the technical skills, because it offers a career focus. Now, in some of our 2-year institutions, especially in a red-hot economy, that focus may lead to a great job opportunity prior to graduation. Our goal then is actually to offer those students who might leave an easy opportunity to come back when their professional trajectory changes again. And I think you hear yesterday from Commissioner Hollenbaugh, DLI, adult learning, return to learn programs. That's what that's all about. If a student does leave before graduation because of the right professional opportunity, let's make sure when the time is right, we bring them back in and allow them to finish if that's what serves them best.
Regent Sheehy.
I have a question for Troy Aikman. I believe that's you, Tyler. It's about
Am I John Madden then?
I think you're Joe.
No, I think she means you. Actually, I'm kind of confused.
Tyler, with respect to shared services, you can see from your charts how interdependent all of these things are. Everybody's got some degree of CTE. Who's in charge of the sharing? Is it OCHI? Are these, who's managing the sharing of the services? Is it OCHI or is it little agreements amongst campuses? I just wondered how that works before we get much farther.
Mr. Chair, Regent Sheehy, I guess the answer is it depends, and it depends on what level it's at. It could be a sharing between departments within a campus. Imagine, I'm just pulling this from air, math faculty at Missoula College and the math faculty on the main campus at Missoula sharing services and working together. And then you could think of that by program across those campuses, but it builds on itself, and depending upon the topic, yeah, it would come to OCHI in particular areas. Let's say if we were going to purchase a piece of software for recruitment that we might, recruitment and retention that might help all two-year campuses, we would work to have a single procurement for that and then find a way to share those costs and provide one instance of it at a lower cost. So it just absolutely depends, and it is an immensely complex organization with varying layers. And so that's probably the best way I'm going to be able to answer that.
Mr. Chair, Regent Sheehy, it's always really valuable to hear from our two-year leaders themselves. And during the last MUS two-year study commission, we had a few of our two-year leaders speak directly to questions from the commissioners and offer some insight about what it meant to be part of a system. And I recall distinctly one of our two-year leaders at an embedded college saying, look, the shared services, that means that he doesn't have to lay awake at night on his own thinking about financial aid or registration in the same way that he would if he were providing those services strictly through his own college. And that doesn't mean it has to be the right fit for every single entity, but there are so many benefits in those shared services areas that allow the embedded colleges to focus on, say, the strict academic mission.
Okay, moving into some data points here. The blue line is MUS two-year colleges, and then we have the 3 community colleges. This spans back for whatever electronic data we could find for either group. And so from the beginning of time of when the vote, we didn't really go through the history of how these two-year colleges became to be two-year colleges within the MUS, but they were VOTECs that were part of K-12, and then kind of over a series of decisions integrated into the Montana University system. So starting in 1987, you can see that trend, and you see the incredible growth up until about 2012. That's 2009 through 12, the height of the recession there. This is what you see is the Montana University system, two-year campuses gearing up and taking on the load, and then the economy. So I guess one of the big time takeaway points here is the relationship between two-year education and the economy.
Absolutely. I think that this graph to me tells a pretty important story about what the role of two-year education is in Montana and what it should be. This system needs to be adaptable. It needs to be able to ramp up quickly when we have not only high school graduates but also adult learners looking for upskilling, retooling, the opportunity to get in for a certificate, a 1-year, a 2-year degree. And then honestly, it needs to be adaptable enough to scale back just a bit when the economy is going gangbusters. And the reality is that we have a number of Montanans entering the workforce directly after high school. We have a number of potential adult learners who are quite happy in their job. Who knows what the future holds, but if the economic conditions shift, I would tell you that we will probably need to look to our two-year system to, again, open its arms, more high school graduates, more adult learners, train them for their next career steps. This graph would be mirrored nationally. This is exactly what you see in two-year systems across the country.
So then the next slide is just to give you perspective of the two-year system and then our four-year campuses. And then a closer focus on the overall headcount of two-year colleges in the MUS, and then what % of that headcount is of total headcount, including four-year campuses. And so I really like what the picture that this chart presents here. And you see in 2011 then is the height of the enrollment in two-year, and it's also when two-year had the highest percentage of representation of students in the MUS, and it's really held that same level up until current day and grown immensely since 2001. And so that's some of the next slides is, so why? Why did the increase occur? Before I get to that, let's just first take a look at the degrees that are awarded.
Excuse me, Deputy Commissioner, Senator McClafferty.
Thank you. Brock, Mr. Tessman, I have a question for you, and this might not be the right time because there might be a slide that comes up, but you just made a statement about more high school learners working with the two-year system. So what is the relationship with the high schools working with these 2 years? Are a lot of our students going there and taking courses right now? Or?
Mr. Chair, Senator McClafferty, the answer is yes. I think there will be a little bit more information later on our dual enrollment programs, for example. But we have a great success story to tell in the growth of dual enrollment in the state of Montana. And broadly speaking, there are different types of dual enrollment. What that means is that we offer opportunities for students while they are in high school to connect with our two-year campuses and actually earn college credit, gain valuable skills while they're still pursuing their high school degree. Through a number of different initiatives, we've really worked on affordability of dual enrollment, making the first two courses free for high school students. Within that broad sector of dual enrollment, we have an increasing share of courses dedicated to career and technical education, which means in many cases we can have students leaving high school not only with their high school degree but with a certificate or in some cases an associate's degree that prepares them for the workforce. We could not do this without our great partnership with Superintendent Artson, our K-12 partners throughout the state. It's a great tool for affordability. I believe that it's a great tool for access. It familiarizes students with college life, gives them confidence that their college material, and if their best choice is a workforce opportunity, it better prepares them for that workforce opportunity at an earlier point in time.
Thank you very much.
So just shifting gears here from enrollment to the degrees that are awarded and how do those degrees relate to career and technical education. If you look at the big blue piece right there, Associate of Applied Science, think CTE. Everything inside of that is career and technical education. These are your welding degrees, your healthcare oriented degrees, and we're going to provide lists of all of those here and not only give you an idea of them, but give you an idea of them by campus. And then moving counterclockwise, you see the Certificate of Applied Science. Same thing, but it's a 30 credit certificate that will get you there the same place or the same direction that Associate of Applied Science is headed. And then we have smaller versions of those certificates, and we call this Stackable Credentials, and you're able to obtain a certificate in technical studies or a certificate of completion for a smaller number of credits on your way to getting one of those CTE certificates or degrees. And then we move along down here to the Associate of Science. Some of these degrees are CTE oriented, nursing being one of them. And then finally we hit on the Associate of Arts. These are your transfer oriented degrees. So in total, 68% of the degrees awarded in 2018-19 were CTE. Over time, you can see that top blue bar is your Associate of Applied Science. That was what the 60 credit associate CTE degrees, and you see we've We ramped up, but it's remained kind of the heart and soul of two-year education in the MUS. And where the growth has come through, well, a growth of our certificates as well as our transfer degrees.
And I would suspect that if we return to this venue in 5 to 10 years, perhaps even sooner, we will continue to see growth in transfer degrees, I think in the full Associates of Applied Science degrees, but we'll see more and more certificates and credentials that tag along with those degrees. Our 2-year leaders, our 4-year leaders for that matter, are working hard to figure out how best to connect all of these stackable credentials so that they represent specific competencies, but then also connect together into an associate's or in some cases a bachelor's or in other cases a master's degree. So we have the ability to increase numbers across the line here, all the way from certificate up to the full associates.
So then taking a look at the growth of two-year degrees and certificates awarded in the MUS, going back to 2002, you can see that dark blue portion of that bar there almost entirely populated by CTE programs. And the dark blue portion has grown, but really where the growth has been amplified is in the non-CTE, and that's your transfer. And that's the expansion of the mission of the VOTEX, who kind of integrated into the MUS with that CTE singular mission, adding to them, adding to their mission with transfer. So this is not the other part wasn't interesting, but it gets even more interesting coming up here. So what are the programs? I mean, like, I still don't know what CTE is. I mean, you tell me about it, but I gotta know what the majors are. Well, not quite there. We've got categories of majors first. And so that's what you see here. I told you there was a taxonomy given to us by the federal government. This is us applying that taxonomy to our degree and certificate recipients. And you see healthcare at the top, and then precision production. Well, what's that? We're going to show you that here in a minute. And you can just look for yourself at the varying levels and the types of CTE categories that we have. And so now we start to break out those categories by major. And I'm not going to go through this by any means, but it's more of something just to kind of peruse. We have this link to our website. It's linked to the two-year commission website as just kind of a reference, a portion of this being a reference document. We're going to get into it by campus, and I think that's where you kind of start to map it out in your brain of how it works.
Can I jump in here? And I think this is obvious if you look at these tables. I love these tables. They do define explicitly what we mean by career and technical education. The best way to put this is that it's a little different than what we might have thought in terms of CTE being strictly precision production, welding, for example, or diesel tech. That is a huge part of CTE, but we also have cybersecurity. We also have entrepreneurship. It is, of course, the health professions, a wide range of disciplines. And that's an important thing to keep in mind as you think about the share of our academic programming that falls under this category. It truly is designed to meet all of the different economic and workforce demands that we have in the state. And it's back.
Yep. All right. So then there's a second page to it. But let's get to the, then you can look at it over time as well. And then you can look at the top 10. And nursing, number 1, welding, diesel. I mean, that gives you the kind of the heart and soul of what those, the top 10 represent 52% of the total. So it's very concentrated in these areas. By campus, finally. So this is the part I like. So you go by campus, City College, and just read the top 2. So I go to City College, nursing and welding. Great Falls College, welding and nursing. Highlands College, lineman program and machining. Helena College, nursing and accounting. Gallatin College, aviation and business administration. Missoula College, nursing and medical information technology. Northern, diesel, nursing. Western, education, early childhood education. Starts to fit in your mind about the kind of the traditional missions that have been inherent in our campuses over time. And finally, we'll kind of conclude this sector of it with a note on our Montana career pathways.
Deputy Commissioner, maybe before we make this transition, just thinking about some of these majors and what's more prominent at each of the schools, can you talk a little bit about the connection to industry and how engagement with industry is sort of driving trends in participation in some of the top majors that we see in CTE in these schools?
Mr. Chair, the best way to answer that, reaching out to industry, long been a focus. There's been great work done throughout the state in a number of different arenas. Perhaps I can use one illustration and provide others if that's helpful. Our Perkins Grant, it's $60 million plus over the course of a decade, delivered to Montana expressly for the purpose of driving career and technical education. In order for local entities, be they two-year campuses, be they our secondary partners, in order for them to receive Perkins funding, they have to connect to local industry advisory boards. They have to understand what local labor markets look like, and they have to justify the investment of those funds and the development of new programming because there's an expressed need on behalf of industry and business in that area. That job is never done. It is, I think, worth noting that the needs of industry change at an incredibly fast pace. Some say that education in general can be slow to respond. I'm very proud of the outreach that occurs at the post-secondary level, at the secondary level. We have Director Jackie Treaster here, who's been working with Austin Schweitzer, the Department of Labor and Industry, Todd O'Hare and the Chamber of Commerce, renewing our partnership in order to reach out across the state to business and industry partners and even better learn what their needs are. And I think through the new academic program approval process on the post-secondary side, we'll get quicker and quicker and more effective at building programs that meet those needs. If I may segue into the Montana Career Pathways, this really is a showcase. This allows the university system, the Office of Public Instruction, to communicate with students as early as middle school. There are 16 different career pathways, all the way from the health professions to education. A student can log on to the Career Pathways website and understand what high school coursework might be important to them if they're interested in a career in education. What kind of professional opportunities are out there? What kind of degrees are necessary in order to pursue those different professional opportunities? And ultimately, and this is important, what kind of wage they might expect in these different fields. This is a great embodiment of our commitment to reach out earlier and earlier to students. We know that career preparation does start even earlier than we once suspected. And I think the Career Pathways Project is a great example of our partnership and the effort that we're constantly engaged in to increase awareness earlier and earlier with high school counselors, teachers, students, families, and communities.
I may need help. So if this was a football game, it would be halftime, but don't let that worry you. We're going to pick up the pace in the second half here. We're going to run the ball and work the clock, so let's go. Cost. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this, but it is incredibly important. This first slide takes a look at current unrestricted revenue. This is the revenue that you get from tuition and state appropriations, and if you're a community college, you also get some from local funds. You use these for education and general operations. In other words, you use it to pay for your faculty, your staff, your services that directly impact students. For the commission now, we wanted to paint a picture of where do we sit in terms of the, you can take a look at it as in terms of revenue per student or expenditures per student, and it turns out those are basically the same. The revenue that we spend, that we budget for, has to be the same in our expenditures. For this case, we used revenue because we can compare it nationally, and you can also look at the difference between state support and tuition revenue, as well as local funding. Great Falls and Helena now are the only two colleges that we're able to compare this for, because remember the integrated campuses. They're so integrated into those four-year campuses, we can't pry out their expenditures. They share the same registrar. They share the director of financial aid, and their entire operations are shared. So Great Falls, Helena, you can see there in a comparison to their peers, very close to the peers. We have a different peer set, and this is across the entire nation, all campuses that are public, less than 2,500 students. In the case of the community colleges, it was also those that had local funding, and you can see those comparisons there, pretty close to the peers. Moving into a look at all 5 of those campuses, the same data there now comparing to Carnegie classifications. We're able to split campuses out on new Carnegie. Carnegie is basically the holy grail on kind of telling you what type of campus you have. You have high transfer, you have mixed transfer, or you're a high vocational. And you can see the difference in cost per student there and how that relates to the various campuses that we have. And just for kind of information's sake, I included the four-year campuses. Now, these four-year campuses, this is the breadth of the integrated two-year as well as the undergraduate level and graduate at our four-year campuses, and the total the cost, current unrestricted revenue per student in comparison to our two-year colleges. So that was it for costs. That was quick. A lot in that, and we have a lot of ability to do more. But in the sake of time and sanity here, let's get into the initiatives. And so this is a timeline that goes back to 2005. And why 2005? Well, I don't know, we start losing history before that. It's easier for me to put this together. That's about the time I started in the system, and so very me-centric here. 2005, board establishes workforce and two-year education committee. That still exists today. It was kind of a new topic, emerging topic back in 2005. That led to various initiatives and board-level planning for two-year education that in 2007 resulted in a $5 million OTO from the legislature. And you'll notice a lot of the items along this timeline are investments by the legislature. The state of Montana has staked a claim in two-year education and CTE for quite some time in Montana, and a $5 million OTO for equipment at two-year colleges came about in 2007, as well as $1.5 million for transferability and common course numbering. I mean, that's probably one of the larger system initiatives we've undertaken to align all of our course numbers, not only helping dual enrollment immensely, but that transfer component of the two-year campuses. In 2007, we also received a LRBP funding for $4.5 million for Helena College expansion, $3 million for Great Falls expansion, and $2.2 million for City College. And that's another theme that you'll see throughout this is the rejuvenation of these what were vocational sites, VOTEC sites, and really making them into a true campus. 2007 also is the beginning of the tuition freeze era, and it was particularly marked by freezing tuition at two-year colleges. And we get that question a lot. Why? Why pick on the two-year is what it sounds like. I'm going to show you a slide of the importance of that following this. 2008, we hired the Deputy Commissioner for Two-Year Education, Regent Sheehy's sister, Mary Moe, was the first two-year deputy, one of your colleagues as well, Senator Moe. 2009, the Lumina Grant. So this was like the first kind of big federal, not federal, but national level grant provided to the state of Montana. We were one of 3 states in the nation. and really held out for the uniqueness of our plan to elevate two-year education and improve the perception of two-year education and increase its really its viability in the university system. So we got like big-time consultant help and work there. And in 2009, we received an appropriation from the legislature, and we used that to integrate Miles Community College and Dawson Community College into our information system in the university system's information system banner. It's one of the reasons why we start to see data appearing in these slides and our capability to analyze and research two-year as a whole. 2009 also is the advent and establishment of Bitterroot College programs, followed by Gallatin College in 2010. 2013, $1 million OTO for workforce development, it's the community colleges, and $1 million OTO for dual enrollment. Really, that's the beginning of performance funding right there. We allocated that $1 million for dual enrollment based only to campuses that could increase dual enrollment semester over semester. And in fact, every one of our campuses did that. And in 2013, we rebranded and renamed what then went from VOTEX to Colleges of Technology, to which now are just colleges. We modeled this after Wyoming, California, every other state that has two-year colleges, rather than indicating that this was just, you know, a place for just vocational training. And in 2013, a very big LRBP funding, and in fact, the majority of that, I think $29 million, going to establish Missoula College. Also, MSU Northern's auto diesel tech building, as well as a roof at Great Falls College. 2013, a big-time federal grant, $25 million TAC grant. We saw some of the evidence today of the machining equipment yesterday. You'll see today at Gallatin College when you see the chess pieces. You're in there when you get to pick out your chess piece made out of the machining, the CNC equipment in there. That grant provided that. 2014, two-year college mission implemented across all two-year colleges in the MUS. Now, they're at varying degrees, but we're seeing aspects of that five-prong mission at now all of the two-year colleges. And then 2015, another big-time federal grant, this time focused on healthcare. And we're going to talk about that here, if we get the time, on nursing and how that helped improve the relationship between the associate degree and four-year degree in nursing. Performance funding adopted in 2015. Two-year campuses, even the integrated ones, are measured based on basic metrics of retention and completion, but other metrics very specific to their mission. 2017, developmental education reform, co-requisites. This is the concept of enrolling in a college-level class, but having a portion of it is the portion of that class that you needed remediation in. But when you're done, you get college credit for the class, and you're right on pace. We're one of a few states in the nation that are held up of being able to scale this across the entire system. Dual credit in 2018, 1-2 free. First 6 credits for everyone are now free. 2019, LRBP just happened. Dental Clinic Lab, Great Falls. And in 2019, the College and Career Access Portal. I've got a better slide this time.
Deputy Commissioners, before we go on to the next slide, I just want to see if there's any questions from the committee and members of the board. Any questions? Okay.
Okay, just picking up on that theme of why freeze two-year tuition for 10 years straight and then skip a couple years and do it again. Here's the reason why. Take a look back to the late 80s and the escalation of tuition and the growth of it. And I can tell you why. From 1992 to 2005, the appropriation to the Montana University system actually declined by $7 million over that 14-year period of time. So to backfill for that, tuition was increased. And you're seeing it being increased here at our two-year campuses. And it starts to peak. And that orange line there is sort of the relationship to median income. And so when you see that it's up to 8.1%, that means that the tuition and fees charged to two-year campuses constitute 8.1% of median income in Montana. And so it was alarming. And this is a big-time initiative, not just by the Board of Regents, but the legislature. And you see it then flatten out across, well, really since 2008. a little bit of an increase there in 18 and 19. Those are 5% increase. And we're back to the blue again with a tuition freeze. This is a comparison of our tuition rates, tuition and fee for the full academic year for resident students at our two-year colleges. The red line there is what it looks like in the 15 western states. So the height of where we're at is at the average. We're just slightly below it. Obviously, worked very hard to get it to this point. Here's a comparison to median household income by two-year colleges as well as our four-year campuses. You see two-year still has some room to improve. It's not quite leveled out yet. And I'll turn this one over to Brock.
So, as Tyler mentioned, we've made great strides in the last several months in terms of building our college and career readiness portal, and I think it truly was a privilege yesterday to stand at the podium with my colleague, Executive Director of Reach Higher Montana, Kelly Cresswell, and to unveil what we think is the start of something really big. Senator McClafferty, you asked about outreach. We know that that's a huge part of our lift. You've heard this story now. We have a great story to tell with two-year education in the state of Montana, fulfilling the comprehensive mission all the way from workforce development to transfer education to community development. We are doing the work. So much of our lift now is getting that story in front of parents and students and teachers and counselors. And there's no single silver bullet. But we know increasingly the way that students and others get their information is through something like a college and career readiness portal. This will continue to grow over time. Right now, I think you can see we have the core building blocks there, all the way from tools that will help you plan your future as a middle school and high school student, finding specific career trajectories, again, in partnership with the Department of Labor and Industry, with the Office of Public Instruction. And then what's going to develop into an incredibly easy to navigate educational option portal. A student who is on the High Line and may think that, gosh, my only option for college is a four-year degree. It's a clear across the other side of the state. Is that something that I'm really interested in? Well, no, there are other options closer to home. If you want an associate's degree or a certificate in welding or in one of the health professions, we have options across the state of Montana. That tool is going to allow students to understand how accessible education is at the post-secondary level in Montana. It's going to be a huge part of our outreach campaign. Ultimately, of course, the centerpiece of this will also be a centralized application process that allows students, once they've made their decision, to pick very easily which school they'd like to apply to. So this will continue to grow and develop over time, but it's a great start that is made possible with this partnership we have with Reach Higher Montana. And I hope that in the coming months and certainly within a year, we can show off all the bells and whistles of this career and college readiness portal.
Representative Vinton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This seems like the right opportunity for me to jump in on my bandwagon for exposing middle school students to the opportunities that are available to them in the future. And I know we've touched on it a little bit with the career pathways and with this portal, but my belief is that students in middle school are already trying to decide if they even want to finish high school. We need to expose these middle school students to the opportunities that are out there to give them that impetus to push forward, complete high school, and go after a career if that's what they choose. So thank you for the opportunity.
Regent Sheehy?
The portal, is that for mostly high school counselors, or will it also be available to reach the adult population that we're trying to bring back into college? The picture looks like it might just be for the high schoolers.
Mr. Chair, Regent Sheehy, it is not just for high schoolers. We had a robust discussion at our last kind of portal committee meeting, and a huge next step for us is to make sure that this portal connects with middle school students. It connects with high school students, but also their parents and their counselors. I would love if there were an opportunity to introduce the portal in our middle schools and our high schools so that teachers and students get used to using it, and adult learners. Superintendent Arnson, you mentioned the importance of a P through 20 approach. I think we do have a P through 20 emphasis. It needs to grow. It's not P through 20. This is P through career. And I think that ultimately, I won't attach a number to the end point of that career. I mean, we know that people will be looking for educational opportunities well into their advanced years. That has to be part of this. Quite frankly, that's also one of the huge challenges. I mean, across the country, university systems, secondary systems, are struggling with how to reach such diverse audiences as we look to serve more students. So I will not pretend that it's easy, but it's on our radar, and it's another area in which partnership with all sorts of different stakeholders across the state makes sense. We need to reach out and understand how best to connect with adult learners.
Superintendent Arnson?
Thank you, Chairman Lozar. Thank you for mentioning my name, and I quickly came around that I was there. Engagement, it's tremendously important regardless of when a child enters school or when a student leaves school as a young adult or an adult. Making sure that one of the things that we really haven't mentioned here, there's a partnership with industry, there's a partnership with K-12, there's a partnership with post-secondary, but partnership with community and family is even more so. Community engagement, family engagement is something that I think we can also embark on, especially in the middle school realm. And if you look at a student that is in middle school, where are families after a child is 14 years old? Where are they employed, or if they're not employed? Are they fractured? Are they together? There's so many things that are swirling. So I believe it's not just our system, but it's great government system as well as it's a private system discussing most importantly with parents. And I think we can do a much better job with that. And we are embarking on that in our office. I could give you another homework tool to say, how are we engaging in that parent space? And maybe we could do that better, and that way we could reach deeper.
Thank you, Superintendent. And just to add on to that and kind of go back to the conversation we had yesterday with Commissioner Hollenbaugh with the Department of Labor, you know, he talked about sort of the commitment that they made to the Become Alum program at University of Montana, and the number of hours that his staff put into sort of learning the university system, learning the language, learning the timing, the flow, the process. It was a great investment, and certainly we're seeing at the university some great outcomes there. But he mentioned if we're going to expand that, we're going to scale those efforts, we need a tool to be able to do that. So those folks, particularly in job service, who are in most of our communities, have something that they can share with parents and share with interested in, prospective employees. And this is precisely what he was talking about. And so this is a tool for all of Montana. And I know this is sort of early stages, but this is going to be something that parents can look at for elementary kids, for middle schools, for middle school counselors, high schools, and so on and so forth. So, you know, I think this is something for this committee, for the Education Interim Committee to be sort of keeping up with, seeing how we're able to expand this and see how this partnership, multiple agencies are continuing to grow and develop this, and this will certainly be something that is a part of many of our Regents meetings as we move forward to see how we can continue to add some function to this particular portal. So I know this has been in the process for you know, relatively short period of time, maybe 12 months, and I know that the legislature assisted in a bill around access to additional data for some of our students. So again, this is a while just a single slide in a presentation, I think this is the future for bringing more people into the university system.
Mr. Chair, couldn't agree more. And I think, as we consider what we have to do as a secondary, as a post-secondary system, it's really a shift in wondering whether our students are college ready. And it's a shift towards thinking about whether our system is student ready. And it gets even more complicated when you think about how many different types of students we now seek to serve. So it's labor intensive, but my colleague, Deputy Commissioner Trevor here, just walked you through all the investments that have already been made in our 2-year system, many of which are dedicated to workforce development. We're going to need to continue those investments and perhaps build further as we look to serve more and more different types of students. And Mr. Chair, I would sort of leave this next section to you in terms of how much detail you'd like Tyler and I to get into in terms of discussing nursing preparation in the Montana University system. I think we've given varying degrees of detail with respect to this presentation. The key lesson here is that the system's been adaptable, and as requirements from industry have changed, our degree and credential distribution has changed in order to match that over time. And I think we're both happy to talk in as much detail as you or anyone else around the table would like.
Well, I think due to the fact that this is available online and on our website, certainly a part of our agenda, that if folks want to dive a little bit deeper specifically into nursing, they can do that through the website. And just to be conscious of time, I think maybe we can stop there and take about a 10-minute break. And when we come back, we dive into some discussion about maybe some of the takeaways from this presentation, and then we wanted to also share some insights on research. So it's 10 o'clock. Let's start back at 10:15. All right, we're going to get back underway here. I know we have another presentation, another topic that we wanted to bring in front of the committee and in front of the board. As it relates to research, but just wanted to provide the opportunity for any legislators or any regents to share any insights they might have on takeaways or thoughts from this morning's presentation. It's true. We might take action to see if Joe Buck was more entertaining than Troy Aikman. Well, let's move on to the next item. And I'll just do a little preface here. The state of research in the Montana University system. I believe yesterday, President Cruzado, in her opening remarks and presentation, shared, the certain level, the millions of dollars, the hundreds of millions of dollars of research that happens at Montana State University, and the same can be said for the University of Montana. Go back to, I think, the 2015 session where the legislature supported the university system with the MReady, $15 million MReady grant to do research in our university system to find solutions that are unique to Montana problems. And it was a highly, highly successful. In fact, my understanding that particular project was discussed in many of the tables this morning at the community meeting. So we wanted to look at what is the state of research in the university system and thoughts on MReady 2.0. We've got a few guests with us tonight, or this morning. It seems like tonight. Thank you, Troy. Thank you, Joe. With us, we've got Director Joe Teal from the Office of Commissioner of Higher Education, as well as Dr. Scott Wittenberg from the University of Montana and Dr. Jason Carter with MSU. Joe.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, members of the committee, we're really excited to be here today. I'm not sure if it's going to end up being Monday Night Football, but it's going to be fun. We wanted to come and give you an update on a real success story for the university system and for the state, and that was the legislature's decision to invest $15 million in university research that's tied to advancement of Montana's economy. You know, often the vast majority of research and development dollars that come to universities come through the federal government, and often because of that they focus on federal national priorities, incredibly important work. But these dollars we're looking to find ways to directly tie the incredible expertise that exists at our research universities to the needs and the development of Montanans in Montana. And so in 2015, the legislature appropriated $15 million administered by the Office of the Commissioner of Higher Education with the advice of a committee of legislators and industry leaders. Our campuses brought forward many, many incredible ideas of research that could impact Montana. And these 11 were funded. I'd really encourage you to follow that link. It goes to a website where you can read in depth about all of these projects. My colleagues here are going to describe some of them in detail, but they're really all inspiring and worth looking into in greater depth. And as these projects went along, we at the Commissioner's Office tracked carefully how that money was being spent, the new partnerships that were being formed, new grants that were being sought, so that we could talk to you about what impact this has had. And I'm really excited to share this slide. This is talking just at the end of 2017, so 2 years of funding at the end of that funding period, from a $15 million state investment, the research groups on our campuses that you funded had received $57 million in further grants, many of them through competitive federal grant competitions. They'd formed more than 111 new partnerships, 77 with private companies, 12 new Montana businesses, 18 new patents for products, many of which are now commercialized and deployed, 353 new jobs. And I do want you to listen as my colleagues talk in more detail about how this incredible momentum has continued in so many ways that are impactful all across our state. And really the impact goes beyond the numbers. So the impact is first that it oriented and built capacity on our campuses for researchers who are focused on areas where Montana has needs or areas that are important to Montana's economic growth. It created new ties between our research universities and industry and communities all around our state. It bridged what we call the valley of death in product development. That's the valley between ideas coming out of new basic science, new university research, and the companies that are able to bring that research to market. Hundreds of students participated in this research, whether at the undergraduate or the graduate level, and were enriched because of it. And the area that I really want to focus on for the next little while is the ways in which it made Montana's university-based research more competitive on the national scale. So between 80 and 90% of the research dollars we receive every year at universities around the country come through competitive federal competitions where our university researchers are placed against researchers running labs at Stanford, at Harvard, and they're judged based on the merits of that science. It's incredibly competitive, and I'm proud to say that Montana punches far above its weight. Not only right now are you sitting at the one Carnegie Tier 1 research university in a 5-state region, but this year, as a state, we have the highest ever research expenditures from our universities, $238 million. Again, most of it that's come through competitive federal competitions. And what I want to talk to you about now is the amazing role that MReady played in that status. So what you can see here is that prior to MReady, for almost 10 years, we'd had flat research expenditures as a state. We spent about $183 million per year. And with a $15 million state investment, that annual expenditure grew by $50 million. So now we're sitting at $238 million, more than $50 million than our average prior. And something to note about this is that this is at a time where federal research funding is becoming more competitive. Federal dollars directed towards R&D as a percentage of GDP was on a subtle decline over this time. Looking at the Commissioner's Office, when it comes to research, we regularly compare ourselves to a set of comparator states. There are states that traditionally haven't benefited a lot from federal research and development, states that look similar to us in terms of their business climate. In 2013, we were 10th of 18 on this metric of research expenditures per capita. 2017, we'd grown by almost $30 per person in the state to 6th out of 18. And what that means is that even against our comparator states, we've advanced to the tune of $30 million in research expenditures per year. And recently, the Bureau of Business and Economic Research has done some evaluations of what those research expenditures mean for the Montana economy. So bringing $238 million, much of it from out-of-state federal competitions, means 3,500 jobs, most of them very high paying, $19.4 million in additional tax revenues, that's after subtracting state contributions to our research, and more than $560 million in additional economic output for our state. Now I'm going to turn it over so you can hear some vignettes about the research activities that were funded through MReady and how they've continued. As Jason and Scott talk, I want you to focus on a few things. First, I want you to focus on how the topics that they're talking about align with the topics that you as legislators and regents, the topics and industries that you hear from your communities as being needs in our state, because the alignment is incredibly high. Second, I want you to focus on how the ideas and coming out of this project are not ideas that we sometimes think about ivory tower universities, ideas that sit on a shelf and are esoteric and are not applicable. These are ideas that are applied and in the field and helping people right now. And then finally, I want you to understand the myriad of ways in which the research that thanks to the legislative support that we are able to conduct benefits not only our university communities, but communities and people in every corner of our state. And with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Scott Wittenberg.
So the University of Montana was the lead on 3 of the projects, and I'll talk about 2 of those today. We were also subrecipients on 3 other projects. The one thing that's not obvious, I think, from the list that you saw was that all the institutions worked together on many of these projects, and all the 4-year institutions in the state participated. The first one that's up there is a project at the University of Montana that was looking at water quality monitoring, and it was a number of sub-projects within that overall theme, and I'll just talk about 2 of them. You can see the details about the patents, the instruments that came out of it, the startup companies that came from it, the additional funding. You can read those as well. You've probably heard about one of the 2 projects. One of the projects was from Mike DeGrandpré, who was a chemistry faculty member at the University of Montana, and his startup company, Sunburst Sensors, along with Jim Beck as the other principal in that company, they won the X Prize 2 years ago. And that's an international prize. The total prize was $1.5 million. They developed sensors to look at ocean salinity and pH. And out of that has grown, as you'll see, I think in a later presentation, some student research and other products that have resulted from that product that was developed there. They manufacture and sell those products here in Montana. They manufacture them here in Montana and then sell them nationally and internationally. And it's a growing concern. The other company, no, go back one please. The other one that I would point to is the work that's being done by Gordon Lukehart and Cody Youngbull at are faculty members on our campus, but they're also stationed at the Flathead Lake Biological Station. And they use the MReady project to develop what's known as eDNA, and so that they can do genomic studies in situ in almost real time, so they can do it on a location in a lake in near real time. So rather than taking a sample and sending it someplace and waiting for weeks or months for the results to come back, they can tell right then or there if a certain species, an invasive species is what they look at, is actually in the water supply. So they're looking at zebra mussels to see if we can measure zebra mussels in real time within a lake. And so they're obviously doing it at Flathead Lake. And their current project, I'm not sure how much I can say, but anyway, they're trying to do it where they actually don't even pull a sample. And so they can do it from, say, a boat that drives by and do it at a much higher level, much lower levels of invasive species than you can do with the dogs that are currently being used. And so I think that's the future of the work on the eDNA. Next slide, please. Our second project at the University of Montana was on traumatic brain injury. You see some of the stats there. Montana is usually ranked number 1 or number 2 in a bad way in terms of TBI on a per capita basis. We have a large number, obviously, of rancher farmers, an active outdoor lifestyle, a high percentage of veterans, and so there's all sorts of reasons that we're high on a category we probably don't want to be high on. And so 2 of our faculty members, Sarge Patel and Tom Rao, they developed a blood test that allows you to measure real mild TBI and very early on in the onset. And so what they found is that, particularly for warfighters is where it's most important, is that warfighters and the current tests that are used in the military, they only measure very high levels of traumatic brain injury. And so what's happened is that the warfighters are sent back out into the battlefield and their reaction times are noticeably slower, but the test doesn't find it. And therefore, it's really important for us to be able to measure TBI at very low levels. They have done a spin-out company called Fire Diagnostics. And what I like about Fire Diagnostics, not only does it currently have 8 employees from the 2 it started, but they developed a partnership with Corps, which is a neuroscience company that's currently located in Missoula with part up in the Flathead Valley. And so they've got startup money, they've got venture capital funds from Two Bear Capital, a Montana-based venture capital firm. And as you can see, they're starting to get SBIR funds, so they're getting external funds to help fund their research. That's been a really growing enterprise. And the last one I want to talk about is the project that was primarily at Montana Tech. UM was a sub on it. And it was to look at measuring and doing something about toxic materials that are in wastewater or in groundwater. And the obviously application they're looking at is for the Berkeley pit. And so they have a process that they can scale up to an industrial level to help remove toxic materials and metals out of wastewater. So, thank you.
Chair Lozar, Commissioner Christian, Board of Regents, campus leaders and guests, thank you very much for the opportunity to share some of the successful MReady projects that were associated with MSU Bozeman and our affiliate campuses, as well as a few thoughts on why investments such as MReady are so crucial to our economy, our security, and our prosperity. Since this is the first time I've had a chance to address you, I just want to thank you. I'm humbled to have been hired in this position. I wake up every day energized to work with President Cruzado, her leadership, the exceptional faculty, and the exceptional students we have here at Montana State. The first project I want to share was an interdisciplinary effort between 2 of our most successful and visible research thrusts on the campus of Montana State, and that is our optics and photonics research thrust and our precision agriculture thrust. The MReady investment filled an important gap, as Joe talked about, which is bridging basic funding research with agencies like the National Science Foundation, as you see there, and private investors that support funding for commercialization. Joe, you can go ahead and go next. The project I'm going to highlight is one of 10 laser and optics projects that were funded through MReady. In layperson's terms, a laser and a computer can make decisions in the field regarding herbicide, pesticide, and fertilizer application much, much faster and with much greater precision than the human eye. The image in the upper right corner of this slide is a laser optic camera that was built with off-the-shelf equipment as a proof of concept that a low-cost device was feasible. The global market technology for technologies like this is growing every day, with estimates by 2025 to be over $11 billion. Next slide. As previously mentioned, the MReady project that I just shared with you was a project that funded 10 different optics and photonics projects, and you can see that this investment was arguably one of the most impactful we had. Joe shared earlier that we've had 50 million, I think, in follow-on. This project alone has generated over 21 million in follow-on additional contracts and grants, both at MSU and with private industry, with continued growth expected in the future. Sticking with the precision agriculture example I gave you in the previous slide, this work led to the company that you see on the slide there, NWB Sensor Incorporation, which has since secured a small business innovation grant for phase 2 work on this project, which will focus on real-time mapping of weeds within a combine. As a continuation of this story, Revibro Optics is a startup using this novel technology and has added employees since the conclusion of the MReady project. Finally, Intel has become interested in this work for a very different and kind of neat reason. They would like to use the technology not just in the field, but also in grocery stores as a way of monitoring ripeness of fruits and vegetables on the shelf. This exciting work is not only in its beginning stages, and you can expect to see future outcomes of this innovation in the near future. The second example I want to give you from the Montana State Bozeman campus is on mental health. This past summer, as I prepared to come to Bozeman for airport and on-campus interviews, I spent an awful lot of time not only researching Montana State University, but the state of Montana, given our land-grant mission. One of the pieces of reconnaissance that I discovered very quickly and was absolutely gut-wrenching is the high levels of suicide within Montana. The statistic I came across was that not only does this state have one of the highest youth suicide rates in the United States, and sometimes it is number 1, it's a rate that's twice the national average. The MReady project on this slide served as the foundation for a multi-site comparative effective study of the youth awareness of mental health, or what we refer to as YAM. YAM has its origins in Europe, where a trial demonstrated a 50% reduction in suicide attempts and serious suicidal ideation in a study involving over 11,000 high school freshmen across 10 different European countries. Given this very promising international study, MSU faculty wanted to see if YAM could be incorporated within Montana. And they trained dozens of facilitators to implement the program in schools across our state, as you can see in this map. During the initial 2-year period of this grant, the project trained 12 YAM facilitators, 19 assistants, and created 31 Montanan jobs. The preliminary results of this MReady investment are still coming out, but they're very, very promising. You can see in the bullets, I won't read them all for you, but one of the things I'd like to point out is that in collaboration with MSU Extension, YAM is currently being offered in 30 Montana schools with efforts to increase that number. The MReady investment was foundational to an additional $1.8 million in private and foundation resources. And finally, much like the photonics and optics story I shared with you earlier, it's really the spin-out projects that are the most exciting. Just this week, MSU Communications released a story regarding a key publication related to Dr. Mark Schur's Thrive project. And that is a study in which they are testing the effectiveness of online cognitive behavioral therapy for mental health. Work from the original MReady project for this one is also impacting ongoing work with veteran suicide prevention programs. You should be very, very proud of the faculty here at Montana State and our statewide partners that are pursuing this important area of research. Finally, it is my pleasure to present 2 slides on an MReady investment related to MSU Northern and MSU Billings City College. This project generated industry-impactful data regarding biofuels from oil seeds, like the ones pictured here, or were there. What you see is camelina seed in the background, and a beaker of camelina-derived biofuel in the foreground. Camelina seed oil can be converted into a biofuel, but there is a lack of data available on how this would work at a commercial scale. This project sought to expand knowledge base and help pave the way, perhaps someday, for a commercial biorefinery in Montana. For this project, you can go to the next slide there. No, okay, back one, sorry, there you go. For this project, MSU Northern and MSU Billings worked with 2 private companies Elevance Renewable Sciences, and Calumet Montana Refinery. This research made a number of important conclusions for the industry. First, initial experimental results have shown that unleaded aviation fuel can be made from camelina using a conversion technology developed by MSU Northern's Advanced Fuel Center. Second, biorefinery of this material has the potential to be economically viable and competitive against other biofuels depending on the price of fuel and depending on regulatory circumstances. And third, the project highlights that camelina meal, which is what's left over after the oils are crushed out of the seeds, has promising revenue potential as an animal-fed supplement than an additive fuel pellet production. Lastly, good news to report that I just heard from Greg here recently is that at the conclusion of this project, and more recently, MSU Northern has secured a $467,000 grant from the USDA for continued research in this area, as well as $50,000 from a private firm, Global Connections, for bio-derived lubricants. Last slide. So I want to end and acknowledge at this time Tracy Ellig and his communication staff who worked with me over the last few weeks to put these slides together. I challenged Tracy and his staff with a brain dump of ideas, as you can see, and insisted that we end this section with a summary slide that depicts the complex ecosystem of research and economic development and its impact on our state. They did not disappoint, and they actually summarized my views quite clearly and what this actually means. As this slide articulates, investment in research lead to several key outcomes. First, research leads to new knowledge that addresses state, national, and global challenges. Our new strategic plan here at Montana State outlines 4 such grand challenges as they relate to health and wellness, the environment, agriculture and energy, and the security of Montana, our nation. Those will be the areas we will be focusing on over the next 5 years. Second, research leads directly and indirectly to Montana jobs. For example, it is worth highlighting to this group that many of the federal grants and contracts that Joe talked about, we receive both at MSU, at UM, wherever it is not uncommon for 70% or more of that funding to go to the most precious resource we have in this state, and that is our people. This includes faculty and research scientists and engineers, technicians, and very importantly, graduate students and undergraduate students. All of these individuals live and they thrive and they contribute to the local, regional, and state businesses and tax base. Finally, the research enterprise is critical to a robust workforce development that not only strengthens existing Montana businesses, but also paves the way for future industries. The end result of research investments and growth is that they are not only a win for the Montana economy, they are a big win for Montana residents and the long-term security and prosperity of our state. So I thank you for your attention, the opportunity to share some of these projects, and I look forward to working with you as we consider what MReady 2.0 might look like.
So I think it's worth a quick summary. $15 million in state investment, and just consider some of the impacts that you just heard, impacts on some major threats facing Montana, whether it's new ways to treat mental health issues, new ways to detect and prevent the spread of invasive species, new ways to clean up our waterways when they become polluted, and also some incredible opportunities. MSU Northern, new ways to use Montana agricultural products so that they can be marketed and bring back revenue to our farmers. So there are some incredible statewide impacts that this investment has garnered. What we want to do moving forward is we've been learning along the way, both from what we saw as gaps, opportunities that we missed in this first round of process of MReady, items that we're learning from other states, and we're trying to come up with a broader slate of ideas of how we can both do this type of work in the future, as well as how we can build some complementary investments, whether it's in recruiting and retaining star faculty, building up the groups at our campuses and across the state that can help those faculty to commercialize their products, bring their products out into the field. And so we're right now in the process of working with all of our campuses to review Montana's innovation ecosystem, to come up with some ideas of what we could have done differently to be more impactful with a future MReady. We're going to be revising Montana Science and Technology Plan. This is a plan that tries to identify the overlap and the connection between the research that happens at our universities and the research that's going to be impactful for Montana, so that when we're investing in new faculty, so that when we're putting out seed funds for faculty to start up research projects, they're well targeted to the needs of the state. And then our hope is to come back to the Board of Regents in May with some ideas and proposals for an MReady 2.0. Now, before we open up for questions, and we do hope that you have some questions, everything that we do here and everything that we do in the Montana University system comes back to students. And it's really worth noting the ways that having a robust, cutting-edge research enterprise make our students' experiences better. We in this state, I can tell you, are top-notch in involving undergraduates in research. And I'm looking at President Jane Karras over there because on the screen is one of her students from Flathead Valley Community College. This is William Pardis. William worked with his chemistry professor, David Long. David runs this incredible experience for students at this two-year college in the Kalispell to go, first of all, to understand some science, build some really interesting instruments, and then to travel to work with Berkeley researchers in the Pacific Ocean, studying the ways that ocean acidification harms really fragile ocean ecosystems. And William here, what he's holding in his hand is a little handheld pH meter, a little tiny handheld meter that can measure how acidic ocean waters are. And David, William's professor, made a connection with someone who was mentioned earlier, Mike DeGrandpa at the University of Montana, who was funded through MReady during this time and had worked over the years spinning out sunburst sensors from the University of Montana. And Mike, David, and William were able to work together to commercialize this sensor. So sunburst sensor builds $30,000 in situ sensors to measure pH over time. And you can see on this chart, that's the bumpy blue line. The red line is the $100 sensor that William worked with Mike DeGrandpa to develop. And that sensor is now commercialized. You can see the final version as well as the phone app that controls it. And that's being sold to researchers, research groups around the nation. William then came to my alma mater, Montana State University, to study electrical engineering, did further research with MSU faculty that led him to where he is now. So that's William in the middle. William is now working at what he describes as the NASA of oceanographic research, the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution. It's home to Alvin, the submarine that discovered the Titanic, has been famous over the years for many deep sea discoveries. And William is working there to on a sensor that was deployed this past summer on Alvin to do deep sea research. I could share many, many stories of how both the connections between the universities around our state and, more importantly, the research that happens at our institutions leads to just incredible transformative stories like this. And our entreaty to you is to value the role that researchers play in making this state a better place for our students, as well as a better place for all Montana citizens. Now, I'll finally end with an exciting note. Thanks to leadership from Montana State University, we're emphasizing undergraduate research all across the state this year. Every institution across the state is working on incorporating, improving how we do undergraduate research, encouraging more students to take on that opportunity, and it's all going to culminate at NCUR 2020 here in Bozeman this March. That will bring around 4,000 students and researchers from around the nation to Montana to present the incredible work that they're doing. And it's worth noting that this is the third time that Montana has played host to this conference. The University of Montana hosted in 2000 and 2010. So with that, we're excited to open up for any questions you may have.
Any questions or comments? Commissioner Christian.
Mr. Chair, if I could, I just want to extend a thanks around the table. Honestly, everyone at this table has played a role in what has become a tremendous success, but all of you in the legislative body, some on Section E that are sitting at the table, full of propes, Senate Finance and Claims, you're a big part of moving this forward. And I know you get asked, and they're rightful questions, just exactly how you're spending taxpayer dollars and what it's doing to move Montana forward. And so I appreciate your trust in this effort when we brought it forward in 2015. It has served Montana. It has answered some questions. It has provided economic development for the state, and we're very proud of the work that our campuses did with the seed money that you provided and the trust that you placed in us. So thank you all for the cooperation that we've had moving this effort forward.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Regent Tuss.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to reiterate what Commissioner Christian said. He kind of took my words here, but I didn't want to miss the opportunity to thank the legislators around the table. $57 million leveraged, 353 jobs created right here in Montana is really nothing to sneeze at. We have got incredible researchers on both sides of the divide, primarily at our flagship institutions, that know how to take that seed money, the $15 million that was part of MReady, and do incredible things with it. And for those of us in public positions in the public square, we're always looking for great creative ways to help Montana's economy. This is one way we can do it. This is one way as elected officials and as members of the Board of Regents we can partner together, and I very much look forward to doing this in the future with MReady 2.0. Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Tuss. Regent Sheehy.
I first of all want to say to Dr. Wittenberg that I sat next to Mike de Grand Prix in high school chemistry. Yeah. And it was, I knew in 1980 that Mike de Grand Prix would be doing really wonderful things, which he is, and he's also a really wonderful man. We're lucky to have that homegrown genius at the University of Montana. Thank you for getting him. Thank you for keeping him. He's amazing and doing wonderful things. So shout out to Mike de Grand Prix. He hasn't seen me a lot next to him in any other classes since 1980. And I just want to throw in to the legislature, I've been sitting on this board for 5.5 years. This is one of the best things we've done. I mean, it is the best use of money I've seen. It's just, it is by far, the ripple effects, everything about it has been good. There's just no drawback to it. And I'm kind of a cynic, and I am always looking for the what's wrong with this thing. There's just nothing wrong with this thing. So I highly encourage additional investment in this project.
Thank you, Regent Sheehy. Representative Woods.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to talk about some difficult things here. We can hope that things are going to continue to go well, but hope is not a strategy. And I think we also need to talk about things that have not gone well and address those problems. There's a perception on the part of students on the campus here and some of the faculty as well that our plan is to build up U of M as the neuroscience capital and the cell biology and the medical campus at the expense of MSU. That's a perception, it's conjecture. But there's some evidence that points in that direction that we can address. You know, one is that some of that creates that perception is you turn on the television and you can see advertisements telling students you should come to U of M to study neuroscience. But more importantly, what we can address is that for years we've had open positions on the faculty in cell biology and neuroscience. So that's conjecture and that's perception. But what we can't talk about that is real and that has happened is that the recent merger of cell biology and neuroscience was not handled well. It was not. We just lost 5 of 10 faculty there. And some of those faculty members are world-renowned neuroscientists. That's happened. And so we need to face that has happened. So where do we go from here? It's happened. Where do we go? Because I believe strongly that this puts our Carnegie One status in peril. So we need to reinvest in cell biology and neuroscience on this campus and in this state. It is not, and never should be, a one campus versus the other in cell biology and neuroscience. Cell biology and neuroscience is the fastest growing area of research on the planet. And it spins off a lot of companies, many of which have written me recently, concerned about what has happened with the loss of faculty here. And so what we can do is commit to reinvesting in cell biology, neuroscience on this campus, as well as U of M. There's no reason, these are not mutually exclusive. It is not a zero-sum game.
Thank you, Representative Woods. Any other? Mr. Commissioner?
Mr. Chair, I'll just respond briefly. That part of the divide conversation this is new to the conversation. I'm not aware of that. Certainly no intent to do that. We support research across the MUS. I think the record speaks for itself across the MUS at record high research levels throughout. And we will continue to invest. We will continue to build. We'll continue to work for partnerships like the good one that we've got here that will increase research opportunities. There's no effort to lose. There's no effort to go backwards. We will do everything we can to maintain R1 status, and that will include investing where necessary to keep our R1 status. And there's just no question that is the track we're on. We have a responsibility to all those around this table and around the state to do so as efficiently and as effectively as we can, to be responsible with our resources. We ask campuses across the system to look at how they utilize not only state investment entrusted to us by all you as legislators, but investment from students, grants, and beyond entrusted to us, and to be as efficient with those as we can. And sometimes that makes administrative processes necessary to align those, but none of that is done to undermine a side of the institutions or the system or propel, and we will do what we can do to continue to see record level of investment in research and record production of research in the state of Montana.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Representative Woods.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I would assert that what we can do and should do is bring that level simply back up to where it was at this institution. So this is a very concrete thing that we can and should do for the benefit of our students and the benefit of our community.
Thank you, Representative. President Cruzado?
Yes. Mr. Chair, members of the board, and members of the legislature, thank you so much for this opportunity. I think that there is a big misunderstanding here about the general approach that Montana State University has followed with CBN, and more concretely, actual facts about the individuals that carry the weight of excellence in our universities, which is our extraordinary faculty. I have a human resources report, a spreadsheet that I could share with the regions or with the legislators if they're interested. This is the story that you will find in it. If you take a look at that list, there are 16 positions in the Department of CBN. Of those 16 positions, if you remove the research positions that are funded by external grants, you will end up in the same place where we were a year ago. That is, 9 faculty members who are either tenured or in tenure track positions, and 3 lines that are devoted to non-tenure track positions. Let me just stop right there and take a look at the spread. 9 to 3 is one of the healthiest and most significant investments in tenure track positions at Montana State University and arguably in many universities in the nation. When I look at that human resources report, there are no vacant lines. I will repeat, there are no vacant lines. I cannot replace what has not been lost. And there is no interest, as the commissioner has said, to do anything but to continue to have the same level of excellence in CBN, but I would also say at every department of Montana State University. For months now, I have heard with great surprise numbers that I cannot corroborate with the human resources report. We have not lost 5 faculty in CBN. In fact, when I take a look, and I wonder if perhaps there is a little bit of a misunderstanding. When you take a look at that report, out of the 12 individuals, let's go just to the tenure track, out of the 9 tenure track faculty, 2 are on leaves. For those of us who are not experts in human resources, let me just say a little bit. The Montana University system provides for what we call as different types of leaves. A leave is a temporary license, an interruption of your job without incurring in job abandonment or break in service. There are different types of leaves available to our employees at the Montana University system. There are some types that are specifically for the faculty. There are some types that are specifically for other types of employees. You must have heard of some of them. Sabbatical leaves, for example. Family medical leaves, and also leave without pay. Each type of leave, depending on the situation, will require different sources of funding or different levels of funding, particularly with what concerns us here, which is the general fund, or more specifically, state dollars. In the case that we're discussing today, 2 out of the 9 faculty members are currently on leave. But that does not mean that the university can proceed with backfilling those positions, because those 2 faculty members are still our employees and have a right to those positions. If you were to see that report, you will see position A, blah, 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 and it has a name ascribed to it. In those cases, those leave result at the request of the employee. In the case of faculty members, it's the provost who approves or not approves that leaves. And according to the Montana University system policies, there is one guiding principle for that, and it's departmental discretion, which means we're going to make sure, right, that we protect the mission of the department, the academic quality of the department. Those are 2 out of 9. Another name that has been invoked yesterday and throughout is Dr. Renee Rejo-Pera. And I can mention that I know that case intimately because I hired Dr. Renee Rejo-Pera. I negotiated the elements of her contract. As a faculty member, right, she was appointed in an administrative position. She did not come to Montana State University in a faculty line. However, Dr. Pera had retreat rights. Had she exercised, that she did not exercise because she left the institution. Had she exercised her retreat rights, then at that moment, a faculty line would have been created, which was not created. If you look at the Human Resources report, her name is not there. And even then, in her case, it was so interesting. And again, I was the one responsible for this because we agreed to a joint appointment. Dr. Pera, had she returned to the faculty ranks, would have had a position that was going to be split. 0.49 FTE in cell biology and neuroscience, and 0.51 FTE in chemistry and biochemistry, which is the department in which she had her research lab. I cannot backfill Dr. Renee Rejo-Pera's faculty line because it never existed. I cannot conduct or authorize irresponsibly a search for a faculty line that is not vacated. Once that happens, this is another thing that's very, very important. As urgent, and I totally agree about the importance of cell biology and neuroscience research. I get it. But as president, I have an equal responsibility with all our academic departments. What that means is when a position is vacated, we take judicious care. The provost has specific criteria to make sure that that precious faculty line is allocated in the area of greatest need and potential at Montana State. You have my word. You can rest assured that we will continue to provide the same level of support to CBN in its new home. And yesterday you heard time after time support for that merger. That will continue. And I want to say, I totally support Provost Makwa in his endeavor. I witnessed the countless hours that he devoted to this effort. I participated in meetings. I reached out to our colleagues in Faculty Senate. No one wants to do anything at Montana State University but continue to build on the history and trajectory of excellence that we have. And with that, you have my commitment that we will do everything in our hand, not only to continue to build an excellence, but to promote the healing that is so necessary, to leave this chapter and this episode behind us, and to continue to open the next level of excellence for cell biology and for STEM disciplines and for the humanities and the arts and nursing and education, because the state of Montana needs us desperately.
Well, thank you, President Cruzado. We got a little bit off topic as it relates to particularly MReady. But I did want to underscore a couple things on this particular topic, and then we can move on to some questions. We've got folks from the campuses and Joe ready to answer any questions you have. But focusing on the healing aspect of the process and the decisions regarding CBN. We had a conversation yesterday at length on this topic. We had robust public comment, that there were some themes certainly around an agreement that a merger would be a good idea. But I think ultimately for this university to move forward and all the stakeholders to move forward, that we have to focus on the healing process. It's been bumpy. It's been in our newspapers. It's been a pressure point in this community. And it's certainly been something that the Regents have followed. And I go back to what Regent Tuss mentioned yesterday. We are doing academic program prioritization across the university system. That's how we are agile. That's how we respond to the needs of industry and of workforce. And that was a decision by the Board of Regents to say campuses go through this prioritization process. And that's what Montana State University did with their doctoral programs. So this is a much larger picture for the university system of where we want to go, what makes the most sense for us, how can we still have very strong and enriching student experience and make sure that those students are going into our communities with the skills that they need. So I want us to focus, I want us to pivot to the healing process and figuring out how we can make those promises that we made about CBN, ensuring that we're still focusing on the students that came up and talked, the experience on student research, and what that means for their trajectories in their careers. So I want to put this to bed for this part of the meeting, knowing that we do have our legislators here, and I'm going to shift a little bit. I'm going to provide a little more kudos on MReady 1.0. I think we do know the impact that this has had in our community. I think there's several different stats that were mentioned today, but I think the $573 million in economic activity is absolutely crucial for an economy the size of the state of Montana's. So $15 million to be able to do something like that is absolutely incredible. As it relates to MReady, the potential for MReady 2.0, we look forward to the analysis and the assessment of where the innovation economy is in Montana, so that we have some information to be able to share with this board and to potentially bring to the legislature in the next session. So with that, we've got about 15 minutes left. I know our legislative partners are going to go and participate in a tour of Gallatin College. We don't want to make you late, but I wanted to maybe shift to our ongoing collaboration between the Board of Regents and between this committee, the Education Interim Committee, and the committees during the session. And so I'd love to hear any thoughts and ideas that we need to be thinking about to continue to weave together our work and weave together our energy and our synergy to make Montana and Montana education strong in this state. Regent Nystuen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to acknowledge the great presentations. Even as a veteran regent, I learned a lot this morning. That's what you do when you come to a campus, you learn. And I learned a fair amount. I want to applaud our colleagues that did a great job. I wondered what happened to MReady 1.0. Now I know. I'm ready to sign on for 2.0. For our legislative colleagues, while I know our time is short, probably one of the most compelling presentations we had yesterday had to do with the long-range building plans of the Montana University system. And while I know that a priority of mine these days has a lot to do with evaluating risk, priority, and concern about the safety of our students and our facilities and so forth. Yesterday, we got a list of on our priorities of over $400 million. This morning at our breakfast table, Representative Anderson and I and some of the other folks at our table talked about the challenges the state is facing with regards to its facilities. 2 sessions ago, if I recall, the legislature took a bold step and they did the gas tax. And it took bipartisan support to get that done. And personally, I would like to acknowledge, I am so delighted that you're doing those kinds of things, investing in in so forth. This last session, it had to do with new facilities. We could just look right next door here, see the construction underway for Romney Hall. That's another bold step that took some vision, took some political capital on your part to make that happen, so thank you. The area that I personally would like you to consider this next session has to do with investing in our infrastructure as it relates to our buildings. The Montana University system, I believe, is home to about 60% of the buildings across the state of Montana, and they are in terrible need of repair. Yesterday, we listed as a priority these areas that are most important to us: health and life safety. Number 2, major maintenance of buildings and utility systems. Number 3, code compliance. And number 4, operational efficiencies and savings, and the list goes on. New construction, by the way, was down on the list on number 6, and you can get this list off our website from our meeting yesterday. But I would tell you, I think it's critical that we, in this next session, work with you in partnership to figure out a way that we're going to be able to put some money back into our system here. If I were to guess, I think you probably funded this last session, I'm not being critical, 1 to 2% of what our real needs are. And you know what? We're just a fraction of what you ultimately need to do to look across the state of Montana, okay? Here at the Montana University system, we do have a lever to pull, and that is if we had to do it. Just imagine if you were sitting around the kitchen table with your spouse, and you said, honey, we got to fix the driveway, we got to fix the roof, we got to fix these safety issues, we got a fire danger going here. What would you do? You'd have to figure out a way to fund those types of things here. The Montana University system, we clearly could go in and pull the tuition lever to raise more money. But this past legislative session and the ones before clearly said, put a stake in the ground, said, let's not raise tuition. We'll backfill with dollars for which we as Regents are incredibly grateful for you doing that. But as we look forward here, there are health, life, safety issues that are in play here that we need to address and take it seriously. Representative Anderson and I this morning didn't have a magic wand to figure out how do you raise $400 to $500 million just to handle the university system's needs, plus the rest of the state's needs. But ultimately, in the end, we as Montanans, I think, need to address this issue. So with that, what I would like to do is to think that we're going to look for positive ways, and now is the time to do it rather than when the legislative session starts. Representative Anderson, I applaud your thoughts this morning. It says, you know, the work that gets passed is usually done in the interims, and I think now is the time we ought to be sitting down with you to try to figure out a way to do that. So thank you, Mr. Chairman, for giving me an opportunity to chat about long-range building and life and health safety issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Nystuen. Representative Grubbs?
Mr. Chairman and members of the Regents here, I would like to thank you for having this meeting with us. I was surprised to hear that this hadn't been done. For a long time, if ever, I don't know if it's ever been done, but it just makes sense. When we go to a session, we go for 90 days and it just goes by very fast. We don't have much time to think about things or learn about things because we're seeing bill after bill after bill. During the interim, we have a little bit chance to learn, but I think relationships are part of that learning. Just having a presentation in Helena for a half an hour is not how we build relationships. Having something like this where we can spend some time with the Regents, a day or two, see some of the things being done on one of the campuses, really get to talk at our table this morning or last night when we had the reception, and know that, hey, if we're working on university system issues, now I can call Bob or another regent, and we can have a discussion. So I think it's very important that we continue doing this, and I really applaud you for making this happen along with our staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Woods.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd be remiss if this is probably my last meeting as a legislator, and One of the points that I like to make during the legislature, when we have this discussion, is that, I look around the table here and I see scientists, I see business people, and in these discussions, we talk a lot about preparing our students for jobs, preparing for the workforce, and I'm glad to hear that we're now also talking about the other huge thing that our university does, and that is research. We push the boundaries of knowledge. Without research, we don't have anything to teach in 10, 15 years. We don't spin off industries. But what I want to talk about is what we never talk about or rarely talk about, and that is the other mission of higher education, which is to teach people how to reason and think. And that's why I want to give a shout out to all our humanities professors out there on this campus and other campuses, all the English majors, the journalism majors, the art, the dance majors. That's also part of what we do. And we need to remember that. And with that, it's been fun.
Thank you, Representative Woods. Any other comments? Any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I too would like to thank the Regents for the opportunity to meet with you and to spend this time, not only at this meeting, but over the last couple of days, and as Representative Grubbs had mentioned, building some relationships that just don't happen when we pass kind of in the night at the legislature or say hello in the halls. And so I think meetings like this are crucial. And the mission of education is certainly not isolated to post-secondary or P through 12. It's really one that is encompassing of all of us. And so I look forward to future meetings like this and between the meetings, working together as individuals and collectively to address common problems that are facing our state and facing education, and look for solutions that are positive in Montana. So again, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for the staff that helped put this together, and to MSU, President Cruzado, for the wonderful hosting that you've done. And so with that, we really appreciate it, and looking forward to the visit at Gallatin College.
Thank you, Representative Anderson. I don't want to repeat some of the things that have been shared. I think this is obviously something that we need to continue to do, and I do appreciate our staff and the committee staff for working together very closely on making sure this happened. I know we tried a couple years ago, but we shouldn't wait another 10 years to be in front of each other, because I think Representative Grubbs is absolutely spot on. It's relationships, particularly in Montana, where we know everyone and we know everyone's family, that relationships is really going to be the ticket for us to work collectively on some of the biggest challenges that we have in the state of Montana. And I look around the room, I look around this table, and I see all of our peers in the system, and these are people who absolutely care about education. It's either our youngest children or the 80 or 90-year-olds who we want to bring back to get a certificate into our system through our portal, which everyone should go to when it is complete. No, I see people who are passionate about our state and about education, and the deeper we can make our relationships and our partnership, I think the better our state will be and the better our citizens will be. So with that, Chair Anderson, thank you for joining the Board of Regents. Legislators, thank you for joining, and Regents for being open to having this joint session, and looking forward to doing this in a couple years' time. So with that, we will take a short break and bid you adieu. Thank you. Okay, we're going to get back started here. We've got two things left to do this morning for this portion of the Board of Regents meeting. The next item that we have is public comment. We want to offer the opportunity for additional public comment. As is the case, you're welcome to come up to the mic. Please state your name. And spend maybe 2 to 3 minutes with your insights from the board, your comments. Just another note that if you do have any written comment, you can hand that in to Amy Unsworth. She'll be able to provide a place for you to hand that information in. So with that, we'll open it up for public comment.
Hello, my name is Molly Arundale, and I'm wanting to make a comment today as a proud public employee, member of the Federation of Classified University Staff, part of the Montana Federation of Public Employees. And I really decided to come and make a comment today in support of my colleague Colette Campbell, who you may recall had some commentary yesterday about the problems with our classification structure in terms of some job titles that have relatively low entry rates and the impacts that can have on Montana State University and the Montana University system. And I know that she referenced the number of vacancies that we can see, how it can be difficult to fill positions. I also wanted to speak a little bit just from my experience, and so I'll let you know that I work here on campus at the library. We love the library, but I just think of the number of colleagues who I have who live in campus housing, which is effectively subsidized housing, because they can't afford anything else in Bozeman. I think of the number of colleagues that I've had to say goodbye to because they were unable to cut it in Bozeman, Montana, with the rates of pay that were offered to them. I think of the number of colleagues that I never got to know because they were unable to accept a position at the rate of pay that was offered to them. Colleagues who would have brought new expertise, new visions, new ways of doing things that could have sort of enlivened our community. And I really would like to be able to welcome people into Montana State University and to the Montana University system and retain the people that we have and have them feel like they can be full members of our communities. So I would encourage you to take seriously, as you have, but to continue to take seriously the issue of staff compensation, given the changing world that we live in, and to make sure that your staff and the Montana University system are recognized as full members of their communities. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Arundel. Any additional public comment?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Taylor Blossom, President of Associated Students of Montana State University, as well as Montana Associated Students. First of all, just on an ASMSU president note, I really would like to endorse what the previous public commenter said, as well as the individual that came yesterday. I think employee compensation is really important and also can spill over to student wages. And in Bozeman especially, we've seen some issues around student labor over the past few years, and I think that's an area that it would be really beneficial for the board to look into. So, secondly, just a quick update on what Montana Associated Students has been doing the last few days. On Wednesday, we approved bylaws for the first time in a long time, which is really exciting. We created a standardized dues structure as well as standardized committee and governance structures that I think will really help with consistency and transparency in our organization, which is really exciting. Coming up this spring, we're going to be looking into hosting a statewide student conference that will hopefully give students a chance to interact with the commissioner's office as well as the board. And so we'll be reaching out to you as we get closer to that, planning that event. So we're really excited about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Blossom. Additional public comment?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Casey Cummings, and I'm a senior at Montana State University studying organismal biology as part of the College of Letters and Science. And I am a senator with the Associated Students of Montana State University, originally from Cascade, Montana.
Hi, my name is Allison Reinhardt, and I'm a junior studying political science. I'm originally from Bozeman, and I also serve as a senator for the Associated Students of Montana State University.
We are here to share some really exciting news about our student memorial here on campus. And ASMSU has proudly supported the redesign of this project for 4 years now. For those of you who may not know, our student memorial is on the south side of Centennial Mall, where it intersects with 11th Avenue. The project was originally led by a group of students back in 1990 and inspired by the deaths of 2 students who tragically lost their lives in Langford Hall on campus. It has since served as a living tribute to students who have lost their lives while enrolled at Montana State University. Unfortunately, the memorial has seen very little use, and it is simply not built to serve the needs of our university.
The renovation will completely open the space, increase awareness of the memorial, and provide an opportunity to showcase student artwork. And most importantly, it will better memorialize Bobcats who have come before us. I'm thrilled to announce that we are working closely with Vice President of Administration and Finance, Terry Least, and Dean Kairos, the Dean of Students, who have both pledged to support funding for this project. Just last night at our ASMSU Senate meeting, the Senate has also supported committing $75,000 towards this project, and of that $75,000, $35,000 has been allocated already. We are also having a Day of Giving this February that MSU is hosting, and we're hoping to raise additional funds for this project. Thousands of students, staff, and faculty pass by this memorial every day, and we're really hoping that we can redesign this space to have it be a more meaningful public space. I challenge you all to visit the memorial while you're here, and Casey and I would be happy to take you down there this afternoon or whenever you're free during your busy time here on campus. Thank you so much for your time and allowing us to speak, and most importantly, go Cats.
Thank you, Ms. Cummins and Reinhardt. Additional public comment.
Hi, my name is Sam Rue. I'm a student here at Montana State. I'm studying mechanical engineering, and today I'll be the voice of those who cannot be here because of work conflicts or they are in class. And the first question comes from Wadern Maggard, who is a mechanic. If Montana State University is a public land-grant university funded in part by state taxpayers, why is public comment being held when the majority of the public is at work and unable to comment? A question from Leonard Ormseth, who is a student at the University of Montana. Is it fair to be giving a pay raise or a bonus of $150,000 when the median household for a Montana family is $50,000? For Jay Stancliffe, a Montana State University graduate, why does a national search for a replacement need to be undertaken when one fruit of Cruzado's presidency has been a massively expanded school of business and public administration? Aren't there qualified and less expensive candidates in Montana produced by our own university? And a question from Max Rue, a student at Montana State University studying chemical engineering. How much of the funds for this pay raise will come from the now liquidated Department of Cell Biology and Neuroscience? What does growth mean when it comes at the cost of disbanded faculty and the gutting of crucial departments? Another question from a student at the University of Montana, Jeremiah Ormseth. Are the duties of a Montana State University president so strenuous that she deserves to be paid more than the president of the United States? Thank you for listening to my questions.
Thank you, Mr. Rowe. Additional public comment.
Jeff Krause, I'm a resident here. I think the Montana State University president has had a better year than the president of the United States, but thank you for the opportunity to speak. Mr. Chairman and Regents, Presidents Cruzado and Bodner, the short bit of my talk is, my comments are it's time to build it's time for you to prioritize building a building for Gallatin College. The 2-year efforts here, we have bootstrapped it from 0 to 500. And I hope the committee, which I would have loved to have participated in that meeting as well by giving public comment, the meeting of the subcommittee of the legislature. But and I'm sorry if I missed it early on in the meeting, but at this point, I hope they are getting a full-bore look at what bootstrapping into every nook and cranny of Bozeman looks like. 500 people attending the college, many more. We went from 0 to 500. We could go from 500 to 1,500 very easily while our president is still president. But people ask me, the very first question they ask me is, I want to go to Gallatin College. Where is it? And as you know, it's a little bit here and a little bit there and a little bit another place and a place on the high school campus that's going to get torn down. And so it's difficult to represent Gallatin College when it doesn't physically exist. I am a Montana State University graduate. My ex-wife is a Montana State University graduate. My oldest son is a Montana State University graduate. My other son is in school here in the School of Engineering, computer science department. But I'm wearing this shirt today because I didn't lose a bet. That isn't it. Because, you know, I know you know it, and the people in this room know it. But this is the proper place to say this. Managing the university system is not the brawl of the wild. And providing the service we provide to the people of Montana, to the 60% of high school graduates who have yet to hear the message about higher education, to the thousands of people who want to improve their lives through higher education. Serving those people is not the brawl of the wild. This is not a zero-sum game. There are plenty of people out there who will attend our university if we get the message to them, and they will attend this university. And it seems to me, and in my time on your dais, it seemed to me that at times a football game leaked over into everything we did. And I was reminded of it a few times. You know, as the economy of Montana changes, the university system needs to be there to provide that workforce, to retrain that workforce. I do represent the city of Bozeman. I am still a commissioner for 3 more weeks or so, and you know, I hope someone welcomed you here from us, but whether they did or didn't, welcome. And also, you know, we actually wrote checks to the university system to bootstrap Gallatin College out of the city budget. And then I went door to door throughout this county and got the county to vote for the 1.5 mil levy that other counties provide where you have 2-year institutions. This community is meeting its obligation to bring 2-year here. And we hope that you will make it a priority to honor those efforts, to invest in the fast horses, to put your bets on the fast horses, and to build a building for Gallatin College. Make it a priority. You just heard a great report about how informed investment in research had such a payoff, right? And I look at the investment the city of Bozeman made in higher education when we put roughly $130,000 in for 3 years to jumpstart Gallatin College, and the payoff of hundreds of students that have graduated since then. So informed investment in Gallatin College and in higher education works. You saw today on the research side. I'm telling you, it's worked in this community as well. I think that we've experienced some growing pains when it comes to adding programs. That's the second question, right, that we get from Gallatin for people that want to attend Gallatin College is what programs do they offer? And I would hope that you would work over time to have a robust advisory board, a robust shared governance board that allows you to add programs to Gallatin College that aren't perceived as part of the research university, and doesn't get tied down in the in an evaluation from the research side as to what works, what is needed to be provided on the 2-year side. And I think some work in that structure needs to be done as well. So one last thing, we know that Billings Clinic, we already have a great hospital here, Bozeman Health. We know the Billings Clinic is coming. I've also heard that St. Vincent, is that it? The other hospital down there is coming. So we have a great hospital. We're getting 2 more great hospitals here. I hope soon we get a second great higher education institution here with Gallatin College. Thank you for your interest in that, and thanks for listening to me. And oh, by the way, go Hawks. The Bozeman Hawks are playing tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, Regent Krause. Is there any additional public comment? Any additional public comment? Any additional public comment? Seeing no additional public comment, we're going to move on to committee reports and action. We got a whole host of action items for us to walk through. We're going to start with, let's see, Budget, Admin, and Audit Committee. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent action items.
So moved.
Moved by Regent Tuss. Any discussion from members of the board? From the campuses? Any public comment? Seeing no public comment, I will call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Motion passes. Move on to, let's see, the action agenda. We'll start with a policy or other. Action item A, commitment to lease land for a state laboratory facility. I'll entertain a motion to approve this item.
So moved.
Moved by Regent Dombrowski. Any discussion from members of the board? From the campuses? Any public comment? Any public comment? Seeing no further comment, I will call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Action item B, Montana resident undergrad student financial aid policy. I'll entertain a motion to approve this item.
So moved.
Moved by Regent Miller. Any discussion from members of the board? From the campuses? Any public comment? Seeing no further comment, I will call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Motion passes. Action item C, student-driven fee requests, Associated Students of the University of Montana Western. I will entertain a motion to approve this item.
So moved.
Moved by Regent Miller. Any discussion from members of the board? From the campuses? Any public comment? Seeing no further comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Moving on to action staff items. Action item D, deferred compensation arrangement for University of Montana president. I will entertain a motion to approve this item.
So moved.
Moved by Regent Nystuen. Any discussion from members of the board? Any discussion from the campuses? Any public comment? Seeing no further comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Staff item E, Cte MUS. I will entertain a motion to approve this item.
So moved.
Moved by Regent Tuss. Any discussion from members of the board? Campuses? Any public comment? Seeing no further comment, I will call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Facility items, action item F, request for authorization to design and construct campus core infrastructure improvements. I'll entertain a motion for this item.
So moved.
Moved by Regent Dombrowski. Any discussion by members of the board? By the campuses? Any public comment? Seeing no further comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Facility item G, request for authorization to implement steps to construct a new Montana Heritage Pavilion. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Regent Sheehy. Any discussion from members of the board? From the campuses? Any public comment? Seeing no further comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Facility item H, request for authorization to program and design a multi-purpose renovation of Rankin Hall and to complete a portion of the initial renovation phase. What a title. I'll entertain a motion to approve this item.
So moved.
Moved by Regent Tuss. Any discussion from members of the board? From the campuses? Any public comment? Seeing no further comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Facility item I, request for authorization to implement steps to renovate and upgrade Panzer Hall renovations. I'll entertain a motion for this item.
So moved.
Moved by Regent Nystuen. Any discussion by members of the board? By the campuses? Any public comment? Seeing no public comment, I will call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Facility item J, request for authorization for the expenditure of university funds to hire a consultant for student life master planning process. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Regent Sheehy. Any discussion from members of the board? From members of the campuses? Any public comment? Seeing no further comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Facility item K, request for authorization to engage with an energy service company to assess feasibility of a combined heat and power system, University of Montana. I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Regent Sheehy. Any discussion on, from members of the board? From the campuses? Any public comment? Seeing no further comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. We're going to move on to ARSA. There's no action items out of the 2-year and community college committee. So Academic Research and Student Affairs Committee. I will entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Regent Sheehy. Any discussion by members of the board? By the campuses? Any public comment? Seeing no further comment, I will call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Action item A, honorary doctorate, MSU. I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Regent Rogers. Any discussion from members of the board? From the campuses? Any public comment? Seeing no further comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Yesterday, we took action on item B. Now move on to action item C, mission statement revision, Great Falls College. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Regent Miller. Any discussion from members of the board? From the campuses? Any public comment? Seeing no further comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Action item D, program approval process. I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Regent Sheehy. Any discussion from members of the board? Regent Sheehy.
I just want to thank the people who worked so hard on this, and I know we've already identified them, but Brock, you and your team really have worked really quickly and smart on this, so thank you very much.
Thank you, Regent Sheehy. Any other comments from members of the board? Any comments from the campuses? Any public comment? Seeing no further comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Action item E, revise institutional organization policy OCHI. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Regent Dombrowski. Any discussion from members of the board? From the campuses? Any public comment? Seeing no further comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Action item F, repeal academic program planning policy, OCHI. I will entertain a motion to approve. So moved by Regent Nystuen. Any discussion on this item from members of the board? From the campuses? Any public comment? Seeing no further comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Moving on to action item G, revise academic program proposal policy OCHI. I will entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Regent Dombrowski. Any discussion from members of the board? From the campuses? Any public comment? Seeing no further comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Move on to action item H, level 2. I will entertain a motion to approve this item.
So moved.
Moved by Regent Tuss. Any discussion from members of the board? Regent Sheehy.
There are a couple of items in this. I would like to discuss the CNB just a little bit. We've talked a lot about due process in this, and I want to really dial down on what due process means. You're entitled to a process. You're not necessarily due a given result. And in this case, the process was initiated by the board for this program review, and I really want to emphasize that. We are at the end of the process that is due a program review. That's what this process was intended to do, review the programs. Our vote today will end that process. And that's an appropriate process for us to undertake today. I think it doesn't take a brain surgeon, but it did take about 10 neuroscience students to tell us that there are still some issues, and we need to resolve those through the appropriate process. I would suggest that the campus be proactive about initiating an undertaking with the students involved, and that the employment issues be kept separate, and that the students be put first. I see, I work in dispute in my day job, and I have for 30 years. And when I hear people come to a podium and say that we have to decide who is lying, that is something that happens at the beginning of almost every case I handle, and it's usually not true. It's amazing that in almost every conflict, there are ways that both sides are telling the truth. So what we need to do when we talk about the healing is develop a process by which this can be resolved so that everyone understands what happens, that we don't reach this kind of misunderstanding in processes in the future, and that, number one, the students feel comfortable. So I thank you for being open to that, President Cruzado, and I look forward to supporting this because the overwhelming comment that we got was that the result is unanimously agreed upon now. Reluctantly in some cases, but unanimously. So I'm going to vote for this.
Thank you, Regent Sheehy. Any other comments or discussion from members of the board? Regent Miller.
Thank you, Chair. First and foremost, I'd like to thank all of the students who stood up here yesterday and told their truth, because it takes a lot of courage to stand in front of this room and all of these people in it. So thank you for that. I would also like to say that many of those students supported moving forward. And that's why we're all here. We're all trying to move this forward. And echoing what Regent Sheehy said, President Cruzado and Provost Makwa, I hope we can move forward with these students and help them feel comfortable and help them have a degree that is meaningful to them and to their employers in the future. I also support this and excited to move on from it. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Regent Miller. Any other comments from members of the board? Seeing none, any comments from the campuses? Any public comment? Seeing no further comment, I will call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. That brings us to the end of our action items for this Board of Regents meeting. What a couple days it's been. It's not over. That's good. For members of the Board of Regents, we will stay here, I believe, and we'll have our meeting with the Board of, for the Board of Education here at this table at 1 o'clock. Thank you again for all the members of the campus communities that came out and came to the meeting. I want to extend good wishes to everyone who is going to the game and everyone who is going to be traveling home. We wish you well traveling home safely. I will give the last word to President Cruzado.
Thank you so much. Regent Lozar, members of the board, every 2 years, we work so hard in anticipation of this board meeting. There's a lot of excitement. The planning that takes place is just absolutely monumental. This year it was compounded because we were blessed with the opportunity to host a group of our legislators and also to have an opportunity to host the Board of Education. I want to use this moment as an opportunity to say thank you so much for allowing us this opportunity. But I also want to say how grateful I am for the incredible army of individuals who have made this possible. I mentioned yesterday Emma Dijksterhuis and Maggie Hayes, but literally there are hundreds of people behind this effort, making sure that the logistics are flawless, that the infrastructure works. And this excitement about you being here with us, it's not limited to our campus. People in Bozeman are excited to see you walking our streets and staying in our hotels and sharing a meal with us. So on behalf of the faculty and the students and the alumni of the Montana State University and the city of Bozeman, I just want to say we are absolutely delighted to have the Regents of the Montana University system, to have President Botner here, to have each member of our campuses here. And I wish you a blessed holiday next week, a blessed Thanksgiving, and a wonderful and exciting game tomorrow. And let the best team win, and I know what team that is. So go Cats. Thank you so much.
Thank you, President Cruzado. Meeting adjourned.